This guy just got punched square in the mouth, but instead of being scared, he's grinning like a total maniac. Wait, this is 16 years ago. If that's the case, damn, what is wrong with this guy? Is he insane? Then Hyuk-soo looks at Tae-hyun with a bit of hesitation before running his mouth again. You little piece of trash, you looking to get punched again. As soon as Hyuk-soo finishes, he eats a solid punch from Tae-hyun. Tears welling up, the game begins. If this is 16 years ago, does that mean Tae-hyun? You've awakened too. Kim Tae-hyun, a 35-year-old middle-aged guy who has seen 35 years go by still working as a laborer for the awakened. During one raid, they accidentally ran into Asmodeus, an SSS rank monster, which wiped the whole party out. Only Tae-hyun survived. Just when Tae-hyun was about to be sent by Asmodeus to reunite with his ancestors, a man who called himself the King appeared. He stopped time and space, granted Tae-hyun power, and then sent him back to the past. Not just that, but back to the exact moment he was getting absolutely hammered by Bae Hyuk-soo and Awakened and his goons. When Hyuk-soo's friends saw him get hit, they got fired up and charged at Tae-hyun. They thought they could easily take him down like always, but no, this time with just a few basic moves. Tae-hyun sent them all to the floor. During his 35 years as someone who couldn't awaken, Tae-hyun had done everything he could, from training his body every single day to learning every bit of information available about the abyss and monsters' knowledge about different skills and even close quarters combat. So there was no way he would lose to these amateur thugs. These guys don't even know the basics. As for the abyss, ever since it appeared, it changed the whole world. This is a place where monsters, things that only existed in novels, emerged. After the abyss was discovered, humans awakened extraordinary powers, and with those powers, they wiped out monsters and tapped into the potential of the abyss. Because of that, evaluating a person is no longer based on character or effort, but on rank and power. If your awakening rank is high, you get a good life. For those who aren't, you can't even open your status window. Like 35-year-old Tae-hyun, you just have to accept a miserable life, despised, trampled on, and turned into a servant for the awakened, is just a servant. But that was the story of his previous life. In this life, Tae-hyun has awakened at 19, and he's going to use this opportunity to the fullest, to rise up. Back to the action. While Tae-hyun was feeling smug about teaching the bullies a lesson, Hyuk-soo recovered from the surprise punch. What the awakened? Ah, Kim Tae-hyun, you're dead meat. After saying that, Hyuk-soo activated his power rock skin, strengthening his body to become hard as stone by forming rocks on his skin, then started charging, and attacked Tae-hyun repeatedly. Tae-hyun relied on his quick reflexes to successfully dodge, and even found a chance to counterattack Hyuk-soo. But he forgot one thing: his skin was rock hard. So in the end, the recoil injured his own arm. Before Tae-hyun could even regret it, Hyuk-soo followed up with a punch that sent Tae-hyun flying backward, knocking over a nearby wall. Ha ha, if you're gonna pull stunts, you should know your limits. You've awakened, right? You damn trashy non-awakened loser? Down there at the bottom of the social ladder. What are you planning to do now, huh? Keep running like you just did, or try to wave your arms around with those pathetic skills of yours. Hyuk-soo said arrogantly, then slowly stepped toward Tae-hyun, looking at him like he was a bug. Tae-hyun didn't answer, but started pondering. All awakened possess a skill and a rank starting from F rank, where they are just like normal humans, to the highest S rank, which includes individuals who fight in the territories of entities known as monsters. The physical abilities and skills of the awakened are many times greater than normal humans, but the predation F rank skill he possesses is a skill no one has ever known, and also no one has ever heard of before. On top of that, it's the lowest rank. Theoretically, Tae-hyun didn't have a single chance to beat Bae Hyuk-soo, who is C rank, but for some reason, he had a feeling that he wouldn't lose to him. From the rubble, Tae-hyun slowly sat up. His body emitted a dense, dark aura that made Hyuk-soo start to feel a bit uneasy. What the hell is that? Huh, no way! Did you actually awaken, but you're just Kim Tae-hyun from the bottom of the social ladder? Tae-hyun was also surprised by the power surging through his body. Is this predation? I can feel magic entering my will. I don't know what's happening, but I just need to kill the user and this will all be over, Hyuk-soo said confidently, then lunged to ambush Tae-hyun. But with just a flick of his hand, Tae-hyun blocked his attack. Then slowly, layer by layer, the rock on Hyuk-soo's skin crumbled and shattered. Even he couldn't withstand the power from that flick. and was knocked backward unconscious. Taehyun's system immediately notified him, "Predation complete. By preying on the target, your rank has changed to E and you have learned Sheer, a new skill, Rock Skin." Taehyun brought the little bullies to the infirmary. Since only Taehyun was conscious while being treated, the teacher asked him about the reason they were all injured. Taehyun replied, "We fell down the stairs." "How?" "About that." She didn't ask anything else and let Taehyun leave. "This is amazing. I've awakened and I even got revenge on Bae Hyuksu. The problem is predation." Thinking about this, Taehyun fell into deep thought. The rank that usually takes a lifetime of training to change had increased after just one fight. It's only E rank, but it has power surpassing even a C rank. Can I steal the skills of those I defeat? Why did that king give me such power? Why did he regress me? He had countless questions, but it boiled down to one thing he had to find out. About predation. After sorting out his thoughts, it was time for Taehyun to go home to his uncle's house. After his parents passed away, he moved in with him, so to Taehyun, his uncle's house is his own. It's been a long time, and since I've been home, my uncle will be home late. Should I search for information on similar skills? Taehyun smiled happily, excitedly, pushing the door open to step inside, but immediately saw Wang Yejong, his uncle's son, kneeling in front of three strangers. "Wang Yejong, you didn't go to school." Taehyun instinctively looked at the money box turned upside down in front of him and understood the problem. He cursed angrily, "Wang Sejong, you jerk before!" And I regressed. I remember he always wanted to join the other bullies. He stole all the money in the house and caused big trouble. Didn't think it would be today. One of the three strangers, seeing Taehyun, he immediately confronted Sejong, asking, "Who the hell is this?" Jisung stood up and whispered into the blonde guy's ear, the guy who looked like the leader. "Oh, I was wondering who that was. Turns out he's Jisung's relative. Look, if you don't want to get beaten up, you'd better clear out and pretend you didn't see anything. We're just here to take the money and leave." The blonde guy stepped closer to Taehyun, threatening him, and then taunted him while patting his head. He said, "Haven't you awakened yet, brother?" After a moment of silence, Taehyun responded with a sinister smirk, "Perfect. I was just looking to test it out." As soon as the blonde guy finished speaking, he received a loving punch from Taehyun. After knocking the blonde guy down, Taehyun began to unleash his predation skill, but was met with a notification, "Predation. Function could not be executed." What predation isn't activating? While Taehyun was still shocked, the blonde guy struck back, and together with his accomplices, they unleashed their team-up skill to ambush Taehyun, binding, poison, and hemorrhage. All three rank C skills were aimed straight at Taehyun. A loud explosion erupted, engulfing the area in thick smoke and dust. Just as the blonde guy's group thought Taehyun, it was toast. Taehyun's system notification chimed in, detection of binding, poison, and hemorrhage skills confirmed, thanks to mysterious resistance, successfully resisted. Naturally, it didn't work. It even neutralizes skills at will. I don't know what just happened, but I'm sure it's powerful. Taehyun stepped out from the smoke and dust like a god. Then, quick as a flash, he grabbed the blonde guy by the neck and slammed him to the ground. Once done, Taehyun looked down at the three thugs lying unconscious on the floor and pondered, "So I've learned two things by now, haven't I? The status window can only be seen by fake awakened. Status window name Kim Taehyun. Age 19, rank E, strength stamina 6, speed 5, mana 10, debuff 71%, magic 10 out of 10, skills predation, E-hunting selected awakened mana cost 5, stone skinny body enhancement mana cost 1. The detailed info on the awakened is written here. Even though it's detailed, it's not everything. First of all, the amount of mana was enough to activate predation, so why didn't it turn on predation? E-hunting selected awakened mana cost 5. In other words, the description mentions mana, but to activate predation, there must certainly be other factors involved besides mana. Besides that, the passive effect of the predation skill wasn't mentioned in the description either. It resists and neutralizes skills related to abnormal statuses like poisoning or hemorrhaging. Right or wrong, I'll figure it out eventually. More importantly, Taehyun sighed and glanced at Jae-jung, who was kneeling in front of him, asking, "What are you doing, Jae-jung?" Only then did Jae-jung dare to lift his head, weeping and begging, Brother, after witnessing that side of you, I'm truly impressed. I Huang Jejung, your younger cousin, will reflect on my actions. Please just forgive me this one time, even if it means licking your shoes. Hey, brother, or barking like a dog, I'll do whatever you say. To add sincerity to his words, Jejung started barking, woof woof. Taehyun looked disgusted, silently cursing, what a pathetic piece of trash. I knew he was a snake back in the day, but I never expected him to go this far. Oh well, no point in arguing with him, besides there's an urgent matter. That will happen today. Remembering something Taehyun said, Fine, I'll let it slide, Jejung. With a hopeful expression, Jejung asked, Really right. Taehyun stated the condition. In exchange, you have to, come with me to finish this up. Hearing that, Jejung curiously looked up at Taehyun. Night fell over a cordoned-off area where 3 people stood in front of an energy cage covering a rift that was continuously spewing monsters. A gate/rift is a phenomenon where monsters appear when a crack suddenly opens, creating a path, leading to the abyss. If not handled, it will lead to a dungeon disaster. The man wearing glasses looked at the rift gate and sighed. It's been 10 years since I last saw a dungeon rift. The gate suddenly formed and monsters are swarming out, harming people. The long-haired girl spoke up. Looking at these monsters, if we just sit by and do nothing? A dungeon disaster will happen soon. The red-haired girl worriedly asked, Should we evacuate the surrounding areas? The man with glasses confidently replied, No need, because I have my rank B barrier skill. Besides, the level of this rift gate is only C. That means the strongest monster coming through that gate will only be a rank C monster. In other words, even if an unexpected crisis were to happen. Suddenly, the barrier cage behind them was shattered by a monster. The 2 girls in the team saw it and screamed, Captain! The captain turned around, swung his leg, and kicked the monsters away, asserting, Rank B heroes like us can handle this easily. At the same time, Taehyun and Sejong had also set off running toward the rift gate. On the way, Sejong kept nagging, Isn't it already fine over there now? Brother, you said there were already control staff there, didn't you, brother? That's good, right? Brother? Taehyun gave him a headache. Shut up! Stop with the brother already. You're right based on a rough mana estimate. It's a rank C rift gate. Besides, the control staff are rank B, so they won't have any trouble facing rank C opponents. Jisung chirped. Exactly. That's what I meant. But what if it's not actually a rank C dungeon? These words from Taehyun made Jisung, who was still trying to chatter, go silent, his eyes wide with fear. At the rift gate, the captain sat down next to a monster carcass, deep in thought. Strange. These low-level monsters could actually tear through my rank B barrier? Could the mana leaking out from here be higher than my rank? Captain, there's something inside the gate. Hearing the call, the captain hurried to look back and saw a monster with a much larger physique than the previous ones emerging from the rift gate. The captain's eyes widened in disbelief, staring at that monster. What the? That giant monster is a giant abyss crawler. As soon as it appeared, it opened its mouth and roared, shattering the rank B barrier and releasing the horde of monsters to flood out. That captain couldn't make a single move. He stood there, stunned, watching the giant abyss crawler. It's not C, it's... Before he could finish his sentence, a massive wave of energy engulfed the captain and his 2 teammates. A loud explosion echoed. Smoke and fire immediately covered the entire restricted area around the rift gate. Elsewhere, Jejung was running after Taehyun, asking, Brother, assuming you're right, this is still ridiculous. How? Could you know? All of this. Seeing the monsters' silhouettes. They didn't even order an evacuation because I've already been through this, Taehyun thought to himself. Then said aloud, My intuition just told me so. You're lying. Don't tell me you're trying to trick me. Before Jejun could finish, a heart-wrenching scream echoed from afar. Run, the gate is cracking. Arg, help me, Jay. Jong turned back and couldn't help but panic at the sight of a massive swarm of monsters chasing the citizens. Taehyun remained calm and said, Remember what I told you to do. Yes, I remember. Then do it, Jay. Jong asked anxiously. What about you? Me? I'll take care of these scumbags and catch up with you right after, Taehyun said as he activated his skill. He kicked off the ground and headed toward the monsters chasing the people. At the same time, in a high-rise building, a man looked down at the chaotic streets in anxiety, then turned back and said, "The situation is deteriorating rapidly, just like you said. The gate that was supposed to be C rank turned out to be A rank. There's no support ready. There is no backup available because everyone else is already busy conquering dungeons and exploring the abyss. Now the only way to resolve this crisis is an A rank awakener. You are our only hope. Please help us, the mad sword An Hyun-soo." Hearing this, An Hyun-soo bit his lip, tears streaming down his face as he shouted, "Everyone wait for me! Your hero! An Hyun-soo is coming! An Hyun-soo! A-rank awakener, the mad sword characteristic, puberty syndrome." While wiping out the monsters, Taehyun was also constantly experimenting with his predation skill. A moment later, Taehyun smiled to himself, thinking, just as I thought. Predation failed. It's because of the exhaustion level. If the exhaustion level exceeds 70%, it stops working. Most skills are activated based on how you use mana, but that doesn't mean you only need to worry about mana. Because the exhaustion level increases when using a skill or engaging in physical activity, and the higher the exhaustion level, the weaker the skill's power and the heavier your body feels. Unfortunately, there's so much to worry about. I've discovered that if I absorb the life force of a monster that is already dead, I can restore my mana. When that happens, using my moves becomes much simpler, Taehyun whispered to himself. Taehyun used his predation skill again. The system notified him. The target's life is gone, so mana cannot be absorbed or recovered. You have successfully used predation and restored your mana, Taehyun said happily. And the good news is, the system notified him, your rank has changed to D. Predation from E rank to D. Stone skin from A rank to D. Taehyun grinned, teeth showing, thinking to himself, the more I use predation, the more I level up. At this rate, could I reach S rank or even SS rank? Maybe I'll be the first SSS ranker. Very quickly, the monsters in the area were completely wiped out by Taehyun. Done. Should I head back to Hwangjae now? Before he could finish his sentence, a loud noise erupted behind Taehyun. He turned his head and saw the giant A-rank monster crash into a high-rise building behind him. Then Taehyun saw Hyun-soo appear in the air above the giant monster. He raised his sword, which emitted a golden light, preparing to slash down at the monster. He even shouted, "You filthy monster! I will make you pay for the lives you've taken, the warrior of justice. An Hyun-soo will judge you." Taehyun heard this and looked at Hyun-soo with a gaze that was 3 parts judgmental and 7 parts, well, judgmental. The giant monster naturally wasn't just waiting to die. It stood up and swung its fist at Hyun-soo, but that was just a futile struggle. It was useless. Hyun-soo's full power slash was not something it could block. A pillar of golden light shot into the sky. The giant monster had been defeated by Hyun-soo. Watching the whole process, Taehyun marveled, he can easily destroy an A-rank monster. This is definitely an A-rank awakener, the person who handled the gate alone before I regressed. The mad sword An Hyun-soo, he's as strong as the rumors say. At this moment, Hyun-soo struck a pose he thought was cool and said, "You stupid monster, you just died by the hand of my sword of justice." Taehyun thought to himself, and he's just as dumb as the rumors say, too. But why is An Hyun-soo here? Before I regressed, I remember he had a bloody battle with a giant monster on the other side of the city, didn't he? Hyun-soo stood on the giant monster's body, pressed his hands together in prayer. "Poor citizens, I hope you all rest in peace." Taehyun was about to say something when he suddenly froze. System notification, skill detected. The next second, Taehyun panicked as he saw someone suddenly appear behind Hyun-soo using a sword to pierce through his chest. Hyun-soo spat out a mouthful of blood, startled, as he turned around and yelled, "What?" The mysterious person grinned and said, "Gotcha, An Hyun-soo." At the same time, in a brightly lit room, Jae-jun stood with a frown watching Nyung sleeping on the sofa, wondering, is this really okay? Tonight, many people will die. One of them is the school nurse Choi Nyung. She will die while focusing on helping the citizens instead of evacuating. You can use your sleep skill to make people sleep right, then put Choi Nyung to sleep and evacuate her to a safe place. I'll take care of the rest. Recalling these words from Taehyun, Jae-jun thought to himself, how could Taehyun know all of this? Is there a reasonable explanation for that? But there's no other way to explain it. A moment later, Jae-jun thought of something and shouted, "Wait,
Taehyun, the big boss. Taehyun awakened a skill that can see the future. Seeing the future. That's amazing. That's insane. That's just crazy. Back to Taehyun.
At this moment, he was forcing a smile and cursing internally. Damn it, something is very wrong here. Hyunsu clutched his chest and shouted, "Who are you? Speak!" The mysterious person didn't answer but grinned, saying, "You're still alive even after being stabbed in that vital spot." That's surprising. A rank is truly different, huh? In that case, the hunt will be even more interesting. Hyunsu didn't know who the mysterious person was, but Taehyun knew. This mysterious person was the B-rank villain Han Sang-do with a stealth skill of B rank. They called awakeners who committed crimes villains, and among them the B-rank villain Han Sang-do was a crazed murderer. While the gate was breaking and monsters were flooding out, he wandered around killing people for the thrill of it. Taehyun thought confused. But I'm certain I never met him before I regressed. The future changed because of me. "Ah, you scum, you're a villain! I will punish you with my own hands!" Hyunsu roared and lunged toward Sang-do with his weapon, but he hadn't taken a few steps before vibrations pulsed from beneath his feet. The giant monster he had just defeated was rising again. Hyunsu, startled, shouting, "What a giant monster, Sang-do!" laughed out loud. "Ha ha! That recovery ability is top-notch. Truly an A-rank monster." Hyunsu had no choice but to ignore Sang-do and focus on fighting the monster. "It's no use. I'll leave that monster scumbag to An Hyunsu." Sang-do smiled bloodthirstily and looked at Taehyun not far away. "I didn't think I'd have an audience." "Heh! Pray the more the merrier!" Sang-do shouted, lunging at Taehyun. "Die!" His blade aimed straight for Taehyun's neck. It struck, but a layer of stone skin blocked the blow. Taehyun smirked, then kicked Sang-do in the face, sending him flying backward, caught off guard, the idiot. Stung by the hit, Sang-do cursed, "You bastard! So you're an awakened." Taehyun cracked his shoulders, walking toward him. "B-rank villain Han Sang-do, the madman roaming around. Killing people with your stealth skill, right? Lucky for me, I ran into you." Taehyun activated stone skin on both hands and gestured for Sang-do to come at him. The two clashed. Thanks to the stone skin, Taehyun managed to fend off Sang-do's slashes. For a moment, they were evenly matched, neither able to gain the upper hand. After a few exchanges, Sang-do suddenly backed off, grinning sinisterly. "You're pretty strong. I guess you'd be confident who knew this sword wouldn't work on you. I don't know how much you've figured out about me, but you probably think you can win because my attacks aren't affecting you. Right. But kid, the world doesn't work the way you think it does." As soon as he said that, Sang-do flashed a toothy grin and his figure vanished right before Taehyun's eyes. Taehyun tensed up, whispering, "Stealth, he's hiding. But he should know that won't change the fact that his attacks are still useless against me." Taehyun roared, spinning around and throwing a punch. "You sure about that?" Sang-do's voice echoed in Taehyun's ear. He suddenly reappeared behind him, swinging his blade down hard. Taehyun was startled and hurriedly raised an arm to block it. But this time was different. A bleeding wound appeared on Taehyun's arm, leaving him stunned. Sang-do laughed like a maniac, moving at high speed around Taehyun, slashing repeatedly. Taehyun could only stand his ground, crossing his arms and gritting his teeth to endure the assault. Sang-do gloated, "Do you know how many awakened I've hunted? A bunch of fools who think their skills are invincible. Your weakness is exposed. You're annoyed now and you just want to run away, right? Before you die, you should know this. Everything has a weakness." The barrage of attacks ceased. Taehyun was covered in deep wounds and spat out a mouthful of blood, inwardly lamenting, "Who? I would have thought stone skin had such a flaw. This skill doesn't completely block attacks. Heavy hits shatter the stone and the broken parts are replaced by stone with less durability. He targeted this weakness from the start. But as he thought, he was sure he could still go toe-to-toe with him, even though he was a rank opponent, because his physical skills weren't just at D rank. Taehyun grinned. "Shall we end this test?" "Right here." Sang-do looked confused. "What?" Then he laughed wildly and charged at Taehyun. "Driven to a corner so you've gone mad, huh?" Taehyun asked calmly. "B-rank villain Han Sang-do, do you know why?" "I wanted to meet you." "Ha, what nonsense are you spewing?" "Because I want to steal your skill," Taehyun replied, not holding back as he unleashed his predator skill. Suddenly a bad feeling rose in Sang-do's heart. He stopped thinking, what is this malicious monoflow? Has this bastard been hiding his true strength all this time? But Sangdo regained his confidence, grinned, and continued charging at Taehyun. Hey, you idiot, I don't know what that skill is, but do you think you can hit me if you can't see me? Taehyun used his predator skill to create a barrier covering them both then, replied, didn't you just say that every skill has a weakness? I realized this after tearing into monsters a few times. Among them, countless ones escaped my sight, but in the end, Predator devoured them all. Simply put, no matter where you hide or run, Predator will catch you. As if to prove Taehyun's words, several tentacles suddenly erupted within the barrier, precisely targeting the invisible Sangdo. What? Sangdo only managed a single cry before he was restrained by the tentacles. Taehyun raised a hand, making a crushing gesture. Instantly, Sangdo's body was squeezed by the tentacles until it was torn to pieces. At another battlefield where the giant ogre and Hyunsu were fighting, a large area had been reduced to ruins. Hyunsu was currently lying on the ground, gasping, damn it! If that bastard villain hadn't snuck up on me. The hero of justice, the undefeated warrior, even he. And Hyunsu couldn't ignore the face of death. Across from him, the giant ogre was taking steps toward him, growling incessantly. It raised its fist to smash the spot where he was lying. But when the dust cleared, the giant ogre was stunned to find nothing. Hyunsu was gone from the crater. While the beast was confused, Taehyun suddenly appeared not far away, carrying the unconscious Hyunsu. What the hell? Why are you lying? On the ground like that? That monster is too strong, no wonder. Anyway, doing it this way is more convenient. Taehyun unleashed his predator skill again. He smiled, looking at the giant ogre as if it were a delicious piece of prey. Dawn was breaking, signaling a new day. At a house in a residential area, a middle-aged couple opened the door to find Taehyun and Jong standing there. Jong had his hands behind his head, laughing. Mom, Dad, I'm home. Ha ha! Taehyun greeted them politely. Hello, sir. Is everything okay? Seeing that both were safe, the couple burst into tears. Oh my God, we were so worried you'd been caught by a monster. Jong smiled. It's nothing, right, Mom, Dad? Jong recounted. It's been a while since I was home, so I didn't know, but the house is a mess, like someone just trashed it. Jong said awkwardly, no, it's nothing, right? Taehyun smiled slightly. I don't know either. The media had also started reporting on the rift incident from last night. Breaking news. A large rift has appeared for the first time in 10 years. Per government instructions, the warning regarding a rift has been completely lifted. Given the potential for re-eruption, the government has ordered the closure of nearby schools for 1 week, and news regarding the survivors. As the situation is gradually being made public, the public can finally heave a sigh of relief. The footage shows the first team of 3 to emerge from the rift gate. They're alive and have been taken to the hospital. Under medical care, the team leader keeps muttering, "It wasn't a C rank, it was an A rank." Next, Naeung, looking bewildered, answers the police. When I woke up, I found myself already here. As for Bae Hyuk-soo, he stands before the reporters shouting, "Citizens, I am not the one who took down the giant snail. The true hero is someone else entirely." However, because the giant snail's body has not yet been found, and the whereabouts of the villain who attacked the citizens remain unknown, the public is very worried that safety prevention measures might not be effective. Following this news, hanging up the phone? Taehyun smiles, looks up at the tunnel entrance in front of him and murmurs, "Good. It's a relief no one mentioned me. All right then, time to take the next step. Personal status. Name, Kim Taehyun. Age 19. Rank B. Strength 15. Stamina 20. Mana 40. Fatigue 5%. Magic 40 out of 40. Out of Skills Predator. Rank D hunts selected targets. Mana 10. Hardened skin rank D. Physical enhancement. Mana 3. Stealth rank D can conceal oneself. Mana 5. Now I have 3 skills. Stealth is definitely a huge gain, but with my current level, it's very hard to use all 3 skills because using them carelessly could drain my mana instantly and increase my fatigue levels. That would be a dangerous move, and the best precaution for this is a potion which can restore mana and vitality when used. but potions are quite expensive. I'll have to hunt to earn money, and to hunt I need a legal license. Actually using skills without a permit is already considered illegal. So my only option left is to explore dungeons that haven't been discovered yet. Having made up his mind, Taehyun steps into the tunnel. After maneuvering through a hidden narrow crevice, a wide space appears before him, and a series of glowing red eyes immediately glare at Taehyun. It turns out this place is a monster nest, led by 3 B-rank spider goblin sisters. The 3 spider goblin sisters cry out in surprise. "How does a human dare to come here? How did you find us? Ha ha, let's paralyze him and have a feast." Taehyun looks at the 3 monsters and complains, "B-rank isn't high enough to change my ranking. I have to absorb 100 of these." The 3 monsters, provoked by Taehyun, roar, "How dare you, you arrogant lowly human! Do you know what kind of situation you're in, huh? We will eat you alive." They puff up their mouths and simultaneously fire a paralysis skill toward Taehyun, then laugh triumphantly. "Ha ha! How is it, can't you feel your body becoming paralyzed and immobile?" Taehyun feels no terror, nor does he make a move to dodge. He just stands there, smirks, and activates his predator skill. The system notifies successfully resisted an adverse effect. Just as I thought, you guys have quite useful skills. As soon as Taehyun finishes speaking, he puts his full strength into pushing the predator skill toward the pack of monsters. Then in the tunnel, the miserable screams of the monsters echo one after another. Before long, the sounds gradually fade and finally stop completely. The system notifies you have successfully hunted, successfully absorbed new skill paralysis. At the same time, at the New Awakened Association building, inside a room, there are 3 people, including the Vice President of HR of the Korea New Awakened Association, Go Tae-guk, the commander of the Reapers and an S-rank player, and the president of the Korea New Awakened Association, and also an S-rank player, Ji Jin-gi, standing before 2 S-rank players. Go Tae-guk feels the pressure, thinking, the 2 best awakened of the Korea New Awakened Association. A player is an awakened, legally licensed to use their skills for tasks like deep-sea exploration, clearing dungeons, and so on. Currently, there are 5 strongest players in Korea. They hold most of the balance of power among the awakened. The largest player guilds in Korea include the 4 great guilds, the First Element, Warriors, the Artisans, Alchemists, Mages, Sorcerers, the ones who provide and investigate information, the Shadow Group, and the authorities that manage players, including the main 4 great guilds, which is the Korea New Awakened Association. And right in front of him, Ji Jin-gi smiles at Go Tae-guk. "Long time no see, Mr. President." Ji Jin-gi speaks up. "Thank you for coming. I know you're very busy. Did you find anything?" Ji Jin-gi stops smiling and asks seriously, "Do you mean the Insidious Guild?" The Insidious Guild, a criminal organization founded by the most vicious villains. Its members all wear golden rings with 3 skulls carved onto them. Ji Jin-gi hands a file to Go Tae-guk and says, "These are the recent movements of the Insidious Guild, and a list of the players they are targeting. But you surely didn't call me here just to personally pick up documents, right? So what is it?" Ji Jin-gi continues, receiving the file and smiling. "Tisk, you're quick-witted. I want to ask for your opinion on this." Go Tae-guk asks curiously, "My opinion, since when have you been evaluating players?" Go Tae-guk suspiciously replies, "Of course, ever since I turned 19. Suddenly, Go Tae-guk seems to realize something and says, "President, don't tell me." Ji Jin-gi smiles and asks, "Do you think a high school student can go up against monsters?" Returning to Taehyun's location, his backpack at this moment is already full of magic crystals. He sits on a mountain of monster corpses and makes a phone call. "Hello, is this one of the 4 great guilds, the Alchemists? The thing is, I want to buy potions." Because of the Riftgate incident, the school was closed for 7 days. Taking advantage of that time, Taehyun practiced clearing several dungeons using monster mana cores to create medicines or equipment to trade with the Alchemist Guild. Besides that, the biggest achievement in these 7 days is that he successfully leveled up to a C rank awakened. After the lockdown ended, Taehyun returned to school. Rumors about him defeating Bae Hyuk-soo have now spread throughout the school. Most students are amazed, but also, quite a few people feel worried for Taehyun, because the incident has escalated to a point where S-rank awakened Lee Jung-jae will surely not let it slide. Sure enough, the very first morning, when the school reopened, Lee Jung-jae and his two lackeys came straight to the classroom to find Tae-hyun. To briefly describe Lee Jung-jae, he is the third generation of the Taesan Group, the corporation that sponsors the school. Taesan is the boss of the bullies at Taesan School. Furthermore, Lee Jung-jae is also the one who ordered Bae Hyuk-soo to bully Tae-hyun before he awakened. Right now, Lee Jung-jae sits like he owns the place facing Tae-hyun and starts the conversation, "Long time no see, old friend." Tae-hyun hears this and cusses him out directly. "Who do you think you're friends with? Shut that dog mouth of yours already, you jerk. Who do you think you're talking to, huh?" The underling behind Jung-jae shouted, ready to lunge at Tae-hyun, but he immediately got punched by Jung-jae. "Don't you see I'm talking?" Jung-jae scolded his underling, then turned back to smile at Tae-hyun. "Kim Tae-hyun, why, you're probably feeling pretty smug about beating Baek Hyo-soo, aren't you?" Jung-jae's power flared as he glared at Tae-hyun, intimidating him. "You should watch who you're standing in front of. You'd better listen when still being generous. This is the power of an S-rank awakened. Impressive, right? But you know I'm curious. What will you do when you face a predator, Tae-hyun?" Tae-hyun thought to himself as his hand prepared to use a skill, but suddenly a female voice cut in. "Lee Jung-jae, that's enough. Stop it." Lim Ah-rang said slowly, approaching Jung-jae and Tae-hyun. She used a restraint skill on the underling who was trying to block her, then glanced at Tae-hyun. "Kim Tae-hyun, you two, that's enough." Tae-hyun remained silent, but deep down he had implicitly agreed. Lim Ah-rang, class president, a wealthy heiress, the younger sister of Ju Ah-hyung, an S-rank awakened, a model student, and the future #1 of a noble family, a future SS rank player with countless titles and expected to earn even more. The problem is she's very stubborn and doesn't yield easily, just like now. When Lee Jung-jae acted friendly as if he really just wanted to chat with Tae-hyun as a friend, she didn't hesitate to snap friend. What about punching him in the face then? Jung-jae's fake smile vanished. His eyes blazed as he retorted, "Lim Ah-rang, watch that foul mouth of yours, understand? Ah-rang wasn't one to shy away from conflict either." She said, "I will use force if you don't leave. Shut up and get lost." After the two stared daggers at each other for about 5 seconds, Lee Jung-jae sighed and waved his hand. "Fine, let's stop here. I don't intend to fight in this classroom." However, Jung-jae created a fireball and shouted, "Did you think that's what I was going to say?" Ah-rang saw this and immediately gathered energy preparing to fight back. Just as the two sides were about to tear each other apart, the bell rang and the school radio announced, "Announcement from the Media Club. A special lecture hosted by the Players Association will be held in the main hall. All students please assemble immediately." In the main hall, a special lecture from the Players Association. Jung-jae muttered, then smiled at Tae-hyun and Ah-rang. "Oh well, you guys are lucky." Having said that, he turned and walked away. "Are you okay?" "You don't need to thank me." Ah-rang gradually retracted her power and said to Tae-hyun, but by then he wasn't sitting there anymore. While Ah-rang was still confused, Tae-hyun stood at the door and urged her, "What are you standing there for? Didn't you hear the announcement? Everyone's gathering in the main hall." "I'm heading out first." Ah-rang suspiciously watched Tae-hyun leave. He was able to move without me even noticing. Has this Tae-hyun always been like this? Before long, all the students were gathered in the main hall, and while everyone was guessing about this, Special Lecturer Tae-guk stood on the podium. "My name is Go Tae-guk. On behalf of the Players Association management, I am here for 2 reasons. 1, to apologize for the delay in the association's response to the K-Network, and 2nd, to announce changes for those of you who are players, those holding the future of the association in your hands." Below the stage, people began to whisper and gossip.
Player tryouts. What's that about?
"What does that have to do with us? Isn't 19 the minimum age requirement? If so, we can't participate this year, right?" Not wanting the students to wonder for long, Tae-guk explained, "You probably thought so. But of course I'm here to announce this because from now on it will concern all of you. Due to the recent gate outbreaks, the number of monsters in the dungeons has suddenly increased. The Awakened Association has realized that we are suffering from a severe manpower shortage. Therefore, through these tryouts, we will begin recruiting candidates, even high school students." high school student candidates. They would be selected based on factors like skills evaluation scores, academic performance, and even attitude. While other students were excited by this news, Taehyun, with the memories of a 35-year-old, just smiled internally and thought, lies. These tryouts are indeed open to all students, but the selection process has already begun through Tae-guk's skill. Insight. Insight can observe the overall abilities of the targets it sees. If one focuses more, it can even observe the status windows of the targets. Tae-guk stood on the podium speaking while using Insight to scan the students. He couldn't help but exclaim inwardly, "The number of recruits here is much better than other places. They could become great players, but the most surprising among them is his eyes." Stopped on Youngjae with a stat of 1,924 and Arang with a stat of 2,335, the association really did send me the list of promising candidates. But who would have thought there would be so many potential awakened who haven't? Been trained like this, I'll have to go and write a recommendation form for the association right away. Taehyun thought happily. Just then, Jungjae raised his hand to speak. "Sir, you said you were informing us about the player tryouts, but aren't there people here who aren't suitable? For this recruitment, I mean these tryouts are only suitable for those with the potential to become players among those who have already awakened, right? So, in other words, I don't think those who haven't. Imus awakened should be listening to these harsh words." Youngjae glanced at Taehyun and then spoke sweetly again. "Strength isn't the only thing that makes a strong player. And it's also the awakening rank, the ability to handle situations or extensive knowledge of the abyss. To become a player, you must reach a certain level of complex skills. At the end of the day, those stats can only be reached by those who have already awakened. For those who haven't, isn't this just rubbing salt into the wound? So that's how far you'll go. Just to see if I've awakened or not," Taehyun thought, as if he had read Youngjae's mind. Jungjae raised an eyebrow provocatively. "Well, if you've already awakened, then prove it." Some other students heard Youngjae and laughed. They all looked toward Taehyun simultaneously. Only Ah-rang, who was at the front of the line, was angry and turned around intending to yell at this guy Jungjae. But she thought Taehyun would find her annoying, so she turned away and ignored it. No one else could refute Youngjae. He pushed forward and said to Tae-guk, "So I hope you will kick those unawakened bastards out of here as soon as possible. This isn't a place for them." Tae-guk acted amicable and replied, "I understand." "Dalan Toy," told Taehyung. "So I expect you to kick those unawakened bastards out of here as soon as possible. This is no place for them." Tae-guk replied calmly, "I understand. It's your choice whether you want to participate or not. But Kim Taehyun, aren't you ashamed of yourself yet? How could someone like you even be a candidate here? Or do you just not care?" As Youngjae continued to run his mouth at the awakening trial, Tae-guk stood on the platform silently scorning Jungjae's arrogance, a supposed S-rank player bullying others. It was despicable, but that same attitude made him curious about Taehyun, a nameless, unawakened guy. Why was Jungjae so focused on him? Was he just that annoyed? Or was he envious of something? Let's see what this kid's potential is. Tae-guk thought, using observation to assess Taehyun, only to get an invalid information result. That shocked him into freezing on the spot. As for Taehyun facing Jungjae's provocation, he remained incredibly calm. It was true if he couldn't prove he was an awakened, he wouldn't even be able to dream of entering this association's selection process. But to get nominated, there was no need to reveal his true strength. Thinking quickly, Taehyun played along, replying to Youngjae, "You're right, I was too careless. Why would a guy who hasn't awakened even participate in this selection? I'm just going to be dead weight for you guys anyway, so I'll take my leave. You guys can keep yourselves locked up here and enjoy your wonderful lecture." Taehyun gave them a loving middle finger as a farewell. He turned and walked away. Tae-guk was still confused. His observation didn't work on Taehyun. This had never happened before, not even with the president or Ju. Ah Young had ever been an exception, so why on this kid Taehyun? Did it not work? As if reading Tae-guk's mind before stepping through the door to leave the main hall, Taehyun stopped, looked at him and flashed a creepy smile. Instantly, Tae-guk's observation displayed Taehyun's stats, an unbelievable number, 5,196. After leaving the hall, Taehyun went to the library to find necessary information, but it wasn't long before Young Jae's lackeys showed up. "Jung Jae is looking for you. Come with us or else." Taehyun smirked and replied, "Does your boss run a restaurant or something?" This question made Taehyun cautious. The guy, seeing this, kept running his mouth. "Jung Jae has a message for you. You pathetic bastard, you want to suffer even more? Hasn't your mother suffered enough already? And don't worry too much, we're going to drag you to Young Jae anyway." Boom, boom, boom. The quiet library suddenly turned into a battlefield. Furniture was smashed and scattered. Taehyun grabbed one of Young Jae's lackeys lying on the floor, lifted him up, and said, "Don't make me ask twice. Where is he?" A moment later, Taehyun was at the gym, the place Jung Jae had arranged to meet. Upon seeing Taehyun Seonhondo, an A-rank player, and Lee Jung Jae's bodyguard immediately used a skill and reported to Young Jae. "This is unexpected. What do you think? After that kid got here, I cast some debuff skills, but they didn't work. With this level of resistance, he must at least be A-rank, sieving." At the answer, Young Jae chuckled and said to Taehyun, "As expected, you've awakened too. If that's the case, should we talk for a bit? My words might sound a bit harsh, but I don't intend to fight you. Actually, I want to recruit you under my wing. I plan to form a guild after graduation. Under the name of the T-San Corporation Heir, but even if I am a genius, I can't do everything by myself. You get what I mean, right? With people who are talented, not like that guy Mube Hyuk-soo, but truly talented people like you right now. So Kim Taehyun, let's forget the grudges and come work for me. You'll have money and fame. I'll make your family rich." Taehyun cut off Young Jae's cringeworthy speech. "You talk too much. Money and fame, Lee Jung Jae, you've crossed the line." With that, Taehyun used his stone skin skill as a declaration of war against Jung Jae. Jung Jae sighed regretfully. "Oh, is that so?" Immediately after he unleashed his power, then he declared, "Just as I thought, stray dogs need to be trained." Seonhondo, seeing this, immediately created a barrier covering the entire court. This was a spatial sealing skill using a magic. People outside couldn't sense the magic inside. Once done, he said, "With this, no one can interfere with the young master's fight." Right after that, Jung Jae aggressively lunged at Taehyun, attacking like a storm. But it seemed stone skin didn't have much effect on Young Jae. Just a few of his punches made Taehyun spit blood. "Ha ha ha! Have you realized the gap between us yet?" Jung Jae shouted triumphantly and continued to enthusiastically beat Taehyun up. Hondo, standing on the sidelines, secretly felt sorry for Taehyun. Kim Taehyun, he has a high-level physical enhancement skill, and he's an A-rank awakened with fighting skills and a will far beyond other students. Most students in this school are no match for him. But today his opponent is a genius, so he won't be able to win this match. You'd better give up and surrender. Just then, Hondo couldn't hide his surprise. His eyes widened at what was happening before him. The tide turned. Taehyun went from being on the defensive to counter-attacking and then taking the upper hand. After taking so many beatings, he finally returned the favor to Jung Jae with a direct punch to his face. "No way! The young master is losing in a one-on-one fight." Hondo couldn't hide his shock. He blurted out. Young Jae was now lying in a heap on the floor, screaming incessantly, "You bastard Kim Taehyun! What did you do? Why can't my body move?" Hondo, hearing that, was even more surprised. He can't move. Wasn't physical enhancement the only skill Kim Taehyun had? What kind of monster is he? Finally, it was active. Taehyun proudly said Taehyun had obtained a total of 3 skills from Predation, Stone Skin, Stealth, Paralysis. He hadn't used all his skills from the start. Paralysis C-rank wouldn't easily overcome S-rank resistance. Stealth can't be used when being attacked from a distance. Predation is a last resort and shouldn't be used so blatantly. So Taehyun's goal was to wait for the right moment to use paralysis during close-quarters combat. Effect-inducing skills are more effective through direct contact than from a distance. Therefore, with the damage dealt along with the paralysis effect caused by every punch, even S-rank resistance couldn't be immune to it. You have been paralyzed. Because the damage combined with the paralysis effect applied with every single punch makes it impossible for even an SD rank resistance to remain immune. You have been paralyzed. Complete resistance. Paralysis. Total resistance. Young Jae's system kept flashing those notifications until they finally changed. Resistance to paralysis failed.
That was the moment Young Jae couldn't move, forced to take Taehyun's beating until he collapsed. Kim Taehyun was a genius in hand-to-hand combat. His skills even surpassed his own master's. But in the middle of the fight, a trembling Young Jae suddenly burst into shrill laughter and said, "I admit it, Kim Taehyun, your strength!" I guess I underestimated you. Otherwise, there's no way I could lose to a failure. Unlike you. So from now on, let's fight for real. With that, he pulled a small stone from his pocket and crushed it. Instantly, a giant flaming skeleton from hell appeared behind Young Jae and merged with him. As soon as the enhancement finished, Young Jae lunged at Taehyun. Taehyun barely managed to leap back and dodge. He then used a stone-based skill to counterattack, but the result was like a mosquito biting steel for Young Jae. The moment it touched that entity, the stone coating on his arm shattered. Then he was blasted backward by a massive shockwave. That's the true form of the master's skill, Inferno Heart. Usually it's hard for the master to use his full power. As an S rank with high-level skills, he needs support. Just now, the master used an amplified mana stone refined from a monster's mana core. It temporarily boosts the user's mana. With that support stone, the master can finally use his full S-rank strength. But the problem is, Hondo thought to himself, worried. He shouted in a panic, "Master, stop! Are you trying to kill him? Besides, this much mana in your body is too much. Your blood vessels will burst from the uncontrollable, violent mana." A fire arrow shot straight at Hondo. "Shut up! How dare a mere guardian order me around? This loser insulted me, and you want me to let him go?" Young Jae turned back to Taehyun, putting his all into a crazed attack, screaming, "Die to you, bastard Kim!" "Taehyun, this isn't good, as I thought the master is losing control and his mind is a mess. How is he going to get out of this berserk state?" Hondo frantically ran to the crater created by Young Jae's punch, impatiently reaching out to urge Taehyun, "Are you still alive? Give up and run away now. I'll hold the master back, so hurry." Immediately after he was met with a punch from Taehyun. "Run! What are you guys rambling about after you started this fight yourselves? Why are you saying that? It's not like I'm surprised. I admit S ranks are strong, so I'll get serious now." Saying that, Taehyun downed a few potions. Instantly, his stamina and mana were restored. Simultaneously, he activated Predator skill, ready to show Young Jae what a real party is. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Korean Player Association, after hearing Go Taeguk's report, Ji Jin-gu couldn't hide his shock. 1,900, 2,300. Yes, Lee Jung-jae is 1,900. Lee Min-ho is 2,300. No doubt about it, both of them are S-rank awakeners. The other staff members heard this, and were equally shocked, starting to whisper, "Even for an S-rank, someone who hasn't been trained having a power level of 1,900. That's clearly the level of an A-rank player already. That puts him on par with Japan's Saintus." "Great!" Ji Jin-gu laughed heartily. "Finally, we have a player on par with Japan's Saintess." "The Saintess," Taeguk thought to himself. "The Saintess, the leader of Japan's players. A monster with stats exceeding 2,500, appearing at the age of 19. She made all the awakeners in the world astonished." Exactly. Even if she's a monster, she just barely passed 2,500. How can that compare? And to the stats of someone who has only just begun to awaken. Remembering Taehyun's stat of 5,096, Taeguk instinctively shuddered. He started doubting himself. Was it an illusion, or did I misread the stats? Regardless, I have to check it myself. Back to the protagonist. At this moment, Young Jae was gradually being swallowed by Taehyun's Predator skill. While struggling, he refused to give up, screaming endlessly, How is this possible? How can I lose? I to a failure like you. Kim Taehyun, I'm the heir to the Taesan group. I'm an S rank. You bastard, you have to die. I'm Lee Jung-jae. Whether you are an heir, or whatever rank, it doesn't matter to me, because this is the power of a king. Saying that, Taehyun intensified his Predator skill. A massive, world-shaking explosion occurred. In an instant, the entire stadium was engulfed in flames. Surprising truly. Taehyun looked with interest at Seol Hondo. A moment ago, it was him who risked his life to rush in and save Young Jae while he was being dragged in by the Predator skill. If not for that, that Young Jae guy would have bought a one-way ticket to see his ancestors. Hondo breathed a sigh of relief and then timidly asked Taehyun, "What do you intend to do? The master is the heir to the Taesan group. How do you plan to settle this?"
Hey, who was the one causing trouble here? Talk some sense, will you? Besides, am I the type to be scared by those kinds of threats? Don't worry, I don't intend to kill him. In that case, you guys should pay a price. And for this forgiveness. Honda was a bit bewildered hearing that. A price? Let me see. He is the heir to the Taesun group after all. Taehyun stroked his chin in thought, then made a suggestion. Why? And not receive 1 billion as compensation. Outside, the loud noise and the shock waves from the explosion drew everyone's attention, and they immediately ran to the field to check the situation. Seeing the gym on fire with debris everywhere, the students began to panic. What's going on? Is there a monster attack? No, Lima Zhang whispered, denying it. This mana and these terrifying flames must be Lee Jung-jae's power, but who is he with? Could it be? In A. Zhang's mind, she imagined Taehyun being tormented by Jung-jae. Everyone move back. For now, you guys just stay here quietly. Don't go in there, it's dangerous. As Nayeon was warning the students, Limarang brushed past her like a gust of wind and bolted straight into the gym. I thought I was wrong. I shouldn't have let those two be alone in the gym. This is all my responsibility. Kim Taehyun, please, you have to survive. Arang's heart was burning with anxiety. She rushed into the blaze, but the scene she witnessed was completely opposite to what she had imagined. Taehyun, at this moment, was standing tall and proud while Lee Jung-jae lay motionless on the floor covered in wounds. While Arang was still stunned, Taehyun spoke up. Just in time, I need a witness. Actually, no, I need someone to help carry him. Could you help me take him to the infirmary or better yet, the hospital? Arang, at this moment, finally reacted, rushing over to support Jung-jae before turning to question Taehyun. How did it end up like this? Taehyun shrugged and said, I don't know anything. When I walked in, I found him collapsed. Right here. It looks like he fell down the stairs or something. Arang looked suspiciously at Jung-jae, who looked like he was on the verge of death. Taehyun, acting as if he didn't notice, continued. Anyway, I have no idea what happened. Don't tell anyone you saw me here, okay? That's all, I'm heading out. Saying that, Taehyun took off like a shot, leaving Arang alone with Jung-jae. After reaching a spot quite far from the school, Taehyun breathed a sigh of relief. Perfect. Limarang is there to deal with Lee Jung-jae. Now I just have to wait and see how the Taesun group reacts. If nothing happens, then I guess the matter is resolved. Taehyun opened his status window to check. Defeat Lee Jung-jae, and I've gained a new skill. But this skill isn't in my data. Monarch's Heart, rank C. Increases the strength stat of all party members. Mana 10. Charming aura. Like a famous person. Why does Lee Jung-jae have something like this? It's so confusing. Furthermore, instead of absorbing Flame Heart, I got Monarch's Heart, which increases the strength stat of party members. Even that Lee Jung-jae has this skill, but this is actually good. Skills that affect the entire party are rare, regardless of their rank. Plus, it can be used with many different skills and combined with anything I want. So Monarch's Heart is much better. This is even more amazing than I thought. After checking his loot, Taehyun was planning to go home and rest when a motorcade blocked his path. Found you, student Kim Taehyun. Go Taeguk stepped out of the car, his whole body radiating a dangerous aura. With a cold expression, he said, I have a lot to ask you, starting with this. What exactly did you do in the gym? Taehyun's brain started racing. Why is Go Taeguk here? The gym, is he talking about what happened earlier, or the lecture hall? Which one? Go Taeguk, the guy from the Awakened Association. The chance to speak directly with this guy is very rare, but he knows I caused the trouble, so what happens if I start acting up? I have to try. Taehyun thought to himself and tried to probe him. If it's about the gym, you're talking about the explosion, right? Explosion. Taeguk thought for a moment, then glanced toward the smoke rising from the school. You mean the fire over there? That's fine. Other agencies will handle it. It seems I haven't received an answer from you yet. What did you do in the gym? Don't know about the explosion. Taehyun smiled arrogantly and replied, I thought you would know about that already. Since you came to find me, you must want me to join the recruitment, right? Being hit right in the heart. Taeguk smiled wryly and replied, Recruitment. Why are you being so bold and full of yourself? Is this still not enough?
Taehyun spoke while unleashing his power once again, intentionally revealing his ability. The only thing was this time not only Taeguk, but even those who came with him felt that immense power. Furthermore, the number recorded on Taeguk's Eye of Truth was no longer 5,096, but had risen to 5,214. This left him feeling nothing but fear. Unbelievable. It's even stronger than last time. As expected, that number wasn't a coincidence or a mistake somewhere. Kim Taehyun, who exactly are you? In another development, Lee Jung-soo, an S-rank player and chairman of Taesan Group, after hearing Hondo's report, asked, "So the conclusion is that the only son in the family was injured along with 1 billion in compensation, considering it the price to pay. You want me to handle this? As quietly as possible." Hondo knelt on the ground. "It is my fault no matter what you say, Lee Jung-soo cut him off. "Just do as he wants. Ha ha, a cunning brat, very interesting. But they will have to pay back the same price for what he did." After saying that, Lee Jung-soo snapped his fingers and 2 mysterious black shadows appeared. Hondo, seeing them, panicked and tried to intervene. "Chairman, please." "But the other party is still a child. This is too cruel." "Shut your mouth, I don't listen to barking dogs." Returning to the protagonist, just after returning home, Taehyun threw himself into gym training. The goal was to build physical fitness to prepare for the recruitment drive. Ji-sung, hearing the news, pushed the door open and walked in, a look of extreme surprise on his face as he shouted, "Recruitment! You said you're going to join the recruitment." "Yeah, in a month." Ji-sung, after his brain finally caught up, worshipped him and knelt to bow to Taehyun. As expected, Brother Taehyun is truly the God Emperor of Chungmu. Taehyun didn't even bother to react. Deep down, he was busy thinking Taesan Group definitely won't let it go. Now Go Taeguk is less suspicious of me, and there's only 1 month left, so during this time, I just need to focus on training. That should solve everything. Just then, he received a call from that person. Outside the Black and White brothers, 2 B-rank assassins famous for their stealth skills, sent by Lee Jung-soo, had also tracked down Taehyun's house. "Why is an awakened from the association guarding this house so annoying?" Whitey, while restraining the association's awakened, said. "Blackie, surely that guy is one of the people participating in this recruitment. They care a lot about promising people," Blackie replied. While scouting around, Whitey heard his brother say that and laughed. "Promising people? Even so, that brat is just someone lacking practical experience." "Right. Ha ha, that's right. Being talented but not accumulating experience just makes you a useless brat. Let's show everyone what a real awakened is." "It's like," Blackie said excitedly. Then he turned to look at Whitey, only to see him being punched by a strange young man without missing a single hit, then grabbed by the collar and dragged out to the balcony. "You!" Daihak was delighted and turned to look at Teobok, only to see him getting pummeled relentlessly by a mysterious young man who then grabbed him by the throat and hauled him out onto the balcony. "Who the hell are you?" Daihak roared in a fury, lunging forward to save his brother. Taehyun simply let Teobok drop freely, and the moment Daihak got close, he landed a solid punch right on him. Being a newcomer with no experience? Rewind a few hours. Taehyun knew that demanding compensation from the Taesan Group for such a massive astronomical sum wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't something Seo-eun Hondo could handle on his own. So he didn't make things difficult for the man. He just asked him to do his best to negotiate and handle 2 tasks after the fact. An Awakener's contract is created by Awakeners using magic. If the contract is broken, a random permanent penalty is enforced. Taehyun finally felt at ease laying out the terms to Hondo. "First, do your best to handle the fallout from the gym incident along with the 1 billion won in compensation we discussed. Second act. Every act of revenge needs a heads up." The gym situation was almost handled immediately. The media simultaneously reported that the fire at the Taesan High School gymnasium was caused by a gas explosion, and there were 0 casualties. As for the second part of the agreement right after, finding out the old man Jung-soo had sent men to take Taehyun out, Hondo secretly called Taehyun to tip him off and provided intel on the 2 assassins. Back to the present. After being caught off guard and taking a hit, a bitter Daihak pulled out a weapon and charged at Taehyun with blinding speed. But no matter what he did, his weapons couldn't even touch a hair on Taehyun.
After dodging for a while, Taehyun started his counterattack. He swung his hand to grab Dae-hak but missed. Dae-hak used his skill, stealth vanishing right before Taehyun's eyes. Then circling behind him, he put all his strength into a strike where Taehyun was standing. He thought for sure that after this hit, Taehyun would be wiped out. But suddenly Taehyun's voice rang out. "The Black-White brothers, right? I heard your special ability is stealth. As I thought, it's nothing special. After all, besides that stealth trick, what else can you guys even do?" Taehyun kicked Dae-hak from behind and sent him sprawling to the floor. Somewhere else, Ju Ayoung called President Ji Zingui to probe about the recruitment process. "This is bound to attract awakeners from all over the country. Who do you hope will take the top spot, sir?" "The S rank from Busan Sim Woon-bok, of course." "Ha, no way. He's excellent, sure, but if we're talking about the one to watch, it has to be your brother." "Who else?" Ayoung answered modestly. "Oh, not to that extent." "Ha, you're still as modest as ever. So who are you looking forward to most?" "Sim Yoon-bok." "Yes," Ayoung answered honestly, "at least until I heard about something very interesting." Zingui, hearing this, couldn't help but be curious. "Something interesting?" "Besides the S rank, there's someone Go Tae-guk personally went to speak with." "Go Tae-guk? Aren't you curious, sir? Who on earth is this person that made Go Tae-guk step in himself?" Back to Taehyun after trying to use the predator skill on the Black-White brothers. But failing, he stared at the two of them, then glared at his predator hand. He was bewildered. Why is that? It was time to check the system. Taehyun realized the reason: he didn't have enough stamina. Due to the overload, the predator skill was temporarily disabled. He was freaking out mentally, brainstorming ways to boost his stamina. But every damn method required gluttony. Damn it really left Taehyun with no way out. The next day, ignoring his younger brother Ji Jong's advice, Taehyun was determined to go to the Black Hat Training Center. Yura, the manager with the assault chest defensive butt figure, saw the skinny brothers arrive and looked a bit flustered. But that fluster vanished into thin air the moment he pulled out the ultra VIP black card of the Kim family. How could a kid have a high-level awakeners? Or is it his? She thought, there's definitely going to be trouble. What do I do? Seeing Yura so flustered, the strongest member, Kang Chun, all six-pack abs, appeared to play the hero. "He is Kang Chun, the powerhouse, a member of Black Hat, and an assassin with muscle amplification skills." Taehyun had lived through many years, but this was the first time he'd heard such a cheesy name. A few people watching the scene of Kang Chun showing off to a newcomer whispered among themselves, sensing that he was about to bully another rookie. "Haha, shivering yet just hearing my name. If you leave now, I'll let you go." "What are you saying, you weakling?" Taehyun, cool as a cucumber, coldly challenged him. Kang Chun was furious. Taehyun, completely unfazed, proposed a bet the loser pays the membership fees for a year. Kang Chun, challenged by Taehyun, lost his temper and immediately agreed. With a whoosh, they both dived into the virtual system, preparing to fight in front of the drama-hungry crowd. This was the Virtual Potter training system. It's a virtual reality world, just like the Abyss. A training course that requires players to take out B-rank monsters and reach the destination in the shortest time while carrying a maximum weight load. Everyone felt that Taehyun going up against Kang Chun was at a huge disadvantage. That fat guy Kang Chun looked like he'd been injected with adrenaline, endlessly swinging his arms to slaughter monsters in the system. He screamed Taehyun's name while attacking. Every move was heavy, and the weight he could lift was immense. While he was laughing, suddenly Taehyun flew past him like a gust of wind, leaving countless monster corpses scattered along the path, stunning Kang Chun with his own special technique. A few basic strikes were enough for him to smash those monsters into tiny bits. Kang Chun witnessed Taehyun's performance, his jaw dropping to the floor, sweat pouring down like rain. Debris flew everywhere. Only Kang Chun was left eyes wide, staring at Taehyun, who was carrying a mountain of loot on his back. Taehyun flashed a victory grin and told him to pay up and get lost. Shortly after the day everyone had been waiting for arrived, the examination day for Awakeners. The stadium was packed with people coming and going. The Awakener Association had changed the exam this time, allowing minors to participate. Besides the audience, there were also key figures who couldn't be missed in this upcoming battle. Iron Fist, invincible in close combat. Hong Zung-guk A rank, a priest with excellent combat skills. Even an S rank wouldn't find it easy to beat him.
Lizzie San a rank. Heaven's Thunder. Invincible in Busan. Sim Yunbok, S rank a rising star. The Saintess Lim Azang rank. So many talents had signed up for the competition, everyone was pushing and shoving. So much so that the reporter Kim Cook couldn't even squeeze in to get the scoop and sat on the ground crying. Just then, Taehyun appeared looking super cool, grinning broadly at the sight of the jam-packed crowd ahead. There was only 1 minute left until the exam started. Taehyun felt he needed to establish his image first, so he pushed through the crowd. Azang recognized. Taehyun was there too and was extremely shocked. I heard he awakened, but can someone really change this much in just a month? Before she could even process her confusion or ask the questions bubbling up, the announcement blared over the speakers. The competition had officially begun, and the rules were set. Look at the numbers pinned to your chests. Those are your ID badges. Your goal for this round is to collect 5 of them. That includes your own. Lose your badge and you're disqualified. This is a battle for survival in time. You only have 1 hour. Even before the MC could finish, the ground beneath the contestants began to tremble and rip apart. The first round had officially started. Amidst the chaos, Ajong stood alone. Seeing an easy target, a group lunged at her to snatch her badge, but she just smirked. She didn't even break a sweat as she knocked them flat with 1 punch. The group went down instantly like fruit falling from a tree. Watching through the monitors, the judges were impressed. She was truly a goddess in battle, though the other contestants were no pushovers either. The talent this year is way better than previous batches, one judge noted, keeping an eye on the situation, especially that grade C Busan kid Shin Yun-bok. 20 minutes into the round, no one had managed to lay a finger on Shin Yun-bok. All things considered, he and Ajong were clearly the ones to watch. Tae-hulk, however, was only focused on Tae-hyun. He was certain that a guy like him would breeze through this, but a second later Tae-hulk panicked. Tae-hyun was being cornered by an awakened, yet he was just standing there taking hits without fighting back. He felt disappointed, wondering if he'd overestimated him. In reality, Tae-hyun was using Stone Skin to counter the attacks from an A-grade awakened. Stone Skin is typically low compatibility armor. But Tae-hyun deliberately distracted his opponent before launching a surprise counterattack, leaving him completely caught off guard. After a month of training, the traces of gluttony were still there. While his skills were still raw, he had pushed his body's endurance to the absolute limit. Driven to his breaking point, he unleashed a full power strike that knocked the A-grade fighter out cold. The grade C underdog had successfully secured the number 2 badge. Tae-hulk watched with the smug smile. His training had paid off. In this large-scale survival, Tae-hyun's audacity was truly something else. But now, the problem was that his stamina had been almost completely drained by that last fight. He should play it safe and target the weaker ones now, Tae-hulk thought. But contrary to his expectations, Tae-hyun went straight for the big fish. It was the grade C awakened Shin Eun-bok, looking even more arrogant than before. Eun-bok's thunderclap crackled with a deafening roar that shook the entire arena. Tae-hyun moved. He dodged nimbly and tried to kick back, but Eun-bok was no joke. Both of them were fast as lightning, neither giving an inch. The S-grade god of thunder from Busan, Shin Eun-bok. He had never imagined it would be this troublesome. His entire body was shrouded in bolts of electricity, not only blocking every attack but also acting as a weapon with devastating range and power. How was he supposed to pierce through that defense? While still unable to use gluttony, Tae-hyun hesitated under the relentless barrage of lightning. Eun-bok laughed arrogantly, surging forward and channeling lightning into him. He was thrilled to see Tae-hyun fleeing in a panic. He chased him down gleefully, raining down lightning bolts. Seeing Tae-hyun scream in pain gave him a twisted sense of satisfaction. So much pain can't take it, huh? Tae-hyun tried to fight back, but it was futile. After dancing around, Eun-bok had flipped the script, and the sheer power he was unleashing meant Tae-hyun had no energy left to defend himself. Up until now, everyone else was just running for their lives. I thought only Ajong would be worth the trouble in this awakening test. But turns out there's another fun toy right here, Eun-bok thought, gathering all his power to finish Tae-hyun off. Suddenly, a rock flew in at missile speed and slammed right into his face, drawing blood. He stood there stunned, unable to believe that Tae-hyun's weak counter could have rocked him like that. Tae-hyun, teeth gritted, was throwing massive boulders one after another, forcing Eun-bok to stumble. Stone Skin alone couldn't beat the god of thunder's wrath.
Not to mention beating it if you pushed its capacity to the limit, it would just get crushed and shattered on impact. But here in this arena, the arena itself was built from a special reinforced material from the start, designed to withstand the strength of Awakened. Unlike his skin, the ground didn't lose its shape when it broke. When Taehyun used it as a weapon, it could actually pierce the thunder god's wrath of Shin Yun-bok. This time the guy was finished. Eun-bok spat blood crashing to the ground, in front of the shocked onlookers. An S-grade Awakened, actually losing to that grade C nobody. He's not half bad after all. Keeps things interesting. Tae-hulk smiled to himself. Taehyun had collected all his badges now. All that was left was to wait for the end. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an ice shard whistled through the air, aiming straight for his feet. Then more ice surged forward, coiling around his body in a relentless assault. From the shadows stepped Ah Jung, her face cold and arrogant. Taehyun was stunned. When had she been tracking him? "You're confused, aren't you?" she sneered. "I believe ability should come with responsibility. Power without responsibility is just violence. You're strong, Taehyun."
"You beat Shin Yun-bok in a way no one expected. Lee Jung-suk was taken down the same way, wasn't he?"
Her eyes filled with hatred as she unleashed a flurry of ice shards. The damage was devastating. He couldn't even dodge. Even if he used his stealth, it would be useless now. Ah Jung kept punching and kicking him. "When we were in the arena, I actually trusted you. You said you were different from people like Lee Jung-jae. You said you wouldn't act stubbornly for your own gain, didn't you? But watching you fight, I finally understood. In the end, Lee Jung-jae, maybe even Baek Hyo-suk. You're the one behind it all." She created a sharp block of ice. Under her overwhelming force, vines erupted from beneath the ground, piercing his body and drawing blood. It felt as if the very world was collapsing under her might. Seeing him already beaten, she demanded he withdraw from this Awakener's exam. "Leave unless you want me to expose your skills. What even are you? You can't even stop the tyranny of Lee Jung-jae. What about your responsibility or qualifications? Is this really what you want to do? In the end, you just want to knock me out, right? Then using this survival test as an excuse is more convenient for you. Don't act so low," Taehyun said, trembling. He stood up, a painful smirk curling on his lips. "If that's all you have to say, A-gang, then I have nothing left to discuss." Fueled by a woman's fury, she swung her hand to summon a scepter, swearing to finish him with it. Taehyun's stone skin had shattered hundreds of times, losing its original function. Even if he used stealth now, it would quickly be nullified by her area of effect attacks. His Heart of the Monarch had boosted his stats and was active, but it still wasn't enough to turn the tide. His gluttony was still sealed. Taehyun lacked the stamina to cause paralysis like he did in the match against Lee Jung-jae. The only thing he could do now, besides, that was nothing at all. Thinking it through, Taehyun lunged to confront A-gang directly. A seismic shockwave followed by a thick fog erupted, leaving no one, knowing the outcome. When the mist cleared, everyone stared in shock. Taehyun was pinning A-gang down, kissing her intensely. Even she was flustered and helpless, unable to understand what he was doing to her. In that desperate moment, what Taehyun was aiming for was a kiss. No, it was actually his paralysis skill. The success probability of using the skill at close range was much higher than from afar. That's why he had mixed the paralysis into his own blood for A-gang to swallow. Of course, considering the resistance of an S-rank Awakener, this was basically a gamble. As it turned out, luck was on his side. She was truly paralyzed. Finally, Taehyun succeeded. He happily wiped the blood from his mouth and slowly stood up. Just then, the time for the first exam came to an end. After the first test concluded, all injured participants were immediately tended to by the medical team. Although A-gang was paralyzed, she still passed the first round because she hadn't lost her registration number or her ability to fight. As for Taehyun, he only snatched 7 registration numbers, but taking down Shin Yun-bok and A-gang had caught the eyes of many other examinees. Whispers of admiration followed him as he stood there deep in thought. Suddenly, Eun-bok charged at him from out of nowhere, screaming, still wearing his medical gown, swearing to get revenge for last time. Seeing a fight, the crowd got excited, jeering and cheering. Yun-bok beat the hell out of Taehyun. Annoyed by the noise, Eun-bok turned crazed and fired a blast toward the crowd to silence them. Taehyun, fight me fair and square, I'll teach you who's really above you. While he was screaming blood red with rage, suddenly everyone around them was overcome by a crushing aura. The ground rumbled like an earthquake. Unbok was struck by flying debris and knocked unconscious on the spot. Only Taehyun remained calm. He realized the source of that killing intent was the S-rank Awakener Park Sung-jin. He was one of the top awakeners in the Korean Awakener Association and would eventually become one of the SS rankers. Seeing Taehyun, still unfazed while facing him, Sung-jin twisted his hand, causing the ground beneath Taehyun to sink further. Taehyun braced himself, sweating, trying to hold on while internally assessing his opponent's strength. He can actually endure this. Even veteran awakeners couldn't take it. That kid is quite fascinated by Taehyun's stubbornness. The force exerted increased steadily. Suddenly, nurses and doctors rushed in to stop him, forcing him to pause. Seeing everyone knocked out except for Taehyun, Sung-jin stepped forward, amused, and asked for his name. Kim Taehyun, the C rank who just beat Shin Yunbok and A-gang? It's been a long time since such an interesting kid appeared. He smirked, then stepped closer, promising they would meet again in the near future. Taehyun stared blankly at his back, his eyes full of confusion. A little later, everyone gathered ready for the second round. Sung-jin ordered everyone to walk through the portal ahead to classify their ranks, the place where monsters would appear. Everyone was terrified, sweating buckets. Every 5 people walking through the gate would form an exploration team for the dimension with a pre-assigned supervisor. Every action taken during the exploration would be evaluated. Items like weapons and essential supplies would be provided in full by the association. Now everyone would walk through the portal in order. Sung-jin said this second exam was for classifying amateur awakeners, and those without experience would face no difficulties in a D-rank dungeon. Unless this classification was not what they thought. It was the first apocalypse discovered in the world. Inside the D-rank dungeon, the location for the second exam, many people were killed, including the awakeners, who discovered it, leading to a dungeon break. If he could have prevented it earlier, that would have been great, but nobody would believe his baseless claims, even if the truth was revealed. He would still be the only one suspected. What a shame, but he had to focus on his own path. As long as I'm not in the first exploration group, I have plenty of ways to survive, he thought confidently. Little did he know Taehyun ended up assigned to the group with the supervisor Madohaka, the first person to discover the apocalypse in the dungeon. This time Taehyun was really screwed. Inside there were countless fierce monsters, but the group handled them quickly. This earned Madohaka's praise. Taehyun, on the other hand, was still bitter about being assigned to the first team to discover the dungeon. It seemed like everything was due to the thing Madohaka was wearing, an item that the person who first discovered the dungeon had worn, the Sage's Ring. It was the only one in existence, increasing strength, stamina, speed, and magic power tenfold. The apocalypse in the dungeon was definitely S-rank. He wouldn't survive being pulled into it. No matter what he had to do, everything possible to prevent the apocalypse from being discovered. Taehyun calculated silently while ahead of them there were many paths branching off right when Madohaka, trying to decide on a way forward. Taehyun dashed off in a direction, moving with lightning speed, not giving a damn about the people behind him, regardless of what happened to them. He was determined to choose a different path. Having regressed, he'd be a fool to let that guy pick the route and end up stumbling upon that apocalypse dungeon again. He charged through forests and waded through streams without a moment's rest. But man proposes, God disposes. A glowing, radiant apocalypse was already waiting right in front of Taehyun. From this afternoon until now, he was the first one to discover the apocalypse. This is absolute madness. The whole team is going to lose their minds. I've been running in circles, so how did I end up back here? He thought, horrified, catching sight of the others. Curious, they approached the apocalypse. Taehyun screamed for everyone to back off immediately. He wanted Madohaka to report this to the outside, but the old man's recklessness made him want to step inside. I know what you're trying to say, Taehyun, but I can feel it. The magic power inside this gate isn't all that dangerous anyway. This is just a D-rank dungeon, and I'm an A-rank awakener. The association prepared this gate as a special case for exploration, which also means our scores could be much better. Hearing him say that, Taehyun felt like he was losing his mind. Everything was deviating from his plan. Madohaka then turned to criticize him for refusing to follow the team and only wanting to do things his own way. The others chimed in, pointing their fingers at him, leaving him stunned.
Despite his desperate pleas until his throat grew sore, the man snapped his fingers and forced everyone into that apocalypse. Opening their eyes, they were confused to find this place. It was actually a D-rank dungeon, but with strange, ancient, ruined architecture. The group panicked and started whispering in fear, but Ma Do-hak ordered everyone to be silent and look ahead. Only Taehyun understood what was happening. A-rank monsters and death knights appeared simultaneously, leaving Ma Do-hak speechless as he turned to tell everyone to get ready for battle.
It's too late, baby.
They swarmed in with countless murderous auras. The force behind Ma Do-hak's attacks couldn't even cut off a single hair from them. Sweltering heat engulfed the area. They all tried to split up and coordinate their attacks, and luckily they managed to take them down. With looks of disbelief, they panted, relieved. He boasted loudly, challenging them to come back for more if they were so tough. But who would have thought they actually did return? Less than a minute later, another wave of death knights appeared, their aura even more dangerous and fierce than before. The whole group froze, unable to speak. Taehyun felt something was very strange. Damn it, every time we kill a monster, another layer of them rushes in, and everyone is already exhausted. If this keeps up, we're all going to be killed. Ma Do-hak thought, panicked and terrified. Taehyun, on the other hand, calmly stepped forward. He noticed the guy's complexion was normal, as if nothing had happened, which was a bit surprising. He had fought so much but showed absolutely no signs of fatigue. Yet it was clear this double dungeon was extremely dangerous. If Taehyun's stats hadn't been boosted by the heart of the monarch's skill, he wouldn't have been able to hold out this long. Is he really just a C-rank awakener? He wondered, judging him internally. Though it's just my speculation, that's no ordinary death knight. I'll check that out right now to be sure what kind of monsters we're dealing with. Taehyun said immediately, turning around, grabbing his blade and charging straight at them. The two sides clashed loudly. He fiercely dodged every one of their aggressive blows, then used his sword to stab straight at the leader who had been standing still like a statue the whole time. The illusion gradually faded. This place was nothing but a trap. The virtual space and the enemies were a strategy to drain the strength of the intruders. The group was terrified when they heard Taehyun say that. It was just an illusion, and it already made us struggle this much. What would it be like in reality? Faced with Ma Do-hak's questions about how he knew this place was an illusion, Taehyun said he wasn't sure either, but one thing was certain: the monsters here were not going to be easily defeated. Let's get out of here before we all get killed. He turned his back and walked away, ignoring Ma Do-hak's stunned gaze. The illusion had vanished, but the situation wasn't any better. After the appearance of the double dungeon, the dungeon space had completely changed. The wounds from the battle with the illusionary monsters were becoming increasingly severe. They couldn't just sit around waiting for a rescue team. The last remaining hope was to find the dungeon exit at all costs. After much effort, the group found a sealed door that looked a bit dangerous. But what could be more dangerous than dying here? Might as well take the risk. The door opened, and before their eyes was a pile of death knights, just waiting with countless skulls piled all around. They couldn't even cry. Flames flared up, lighting up the entire room, their lair. Up above there, was the Lord of the Death Knights, the master of the Apocalypse dungeon, cackling and threatening to finish off all of Taehyun's group. The knights, without a word, drew their blades and pointed their weapons at the group. It looked like they wanted a one-on-one duel with each member. A few people started screaming because they were completely spent and exhausted. How the hell are we supposed to solo these guys? Everyone stay calm. Our goal is to get out of here, so one-on-one combat is unnecessary. Taehyun yelled. Jamba, one of the members, was so scared he tried to turn and run toward the exit, but in a flash, the Death Knights swung their swords and knocked him back. Blood splattered through the air. Taehyun watched in horror, immediately telling the supervisor Ma Do-hak to find a way out while he bought them some time. Unexpectedly, not only did the man not listen, but he pushed him aside and used his own power to charge forward. I have always wanted to become an S-rank awakener, but no matter how much I wanted to, no matter how much I trained, I just could never reach that goal. That goal kept drifting further and further away as if it were impossible to touch. This is my chance. If I can just defeat this double dungeon boss, I will finally be recognized as an S-rank awakener. Whether I succeed or fail today is the day I decide that right here. Saying that, Ma Do-hak rushed forward, sweating.
He fought the boss head-on. While fighting, he told Taehyun to run away before it was too late. Everything here is handled by me. Rest assured I won't just die easily here. This is my role as a supervisor. Ma Do-hak used every ounce of his life force eyes bulging as he poured all his power outward. Taehyun looked around, terrified and bewildered, feeling that the injuries of everyone around him were too severe. In that moment, a deafening explosion echoed, forcing him to turn around. Before Taehyun's eyes lay the sight of Ma Do-hak crushed flat beneath the blade of... They looked absolutely wretched. His whole body was covered in blood, and his back was scorched by such intense killing intent that Taehyun couldn't bear to look for long. Everyone here had been wiped out by them, except for the boss. He pulled his blood-stained blade from Ma Do-hak's body, pointed it straight at Taehyun, and sneered, "I challenge you." In this terrifying silent atmosphere, Taehyun broke into a cold sweat, paralyzed. Barely daring to breathe, he suddenly spotted Ma Do-hak's ring on the ground. The moment the boss's sword came crashing down, Taehyun scrambled away, thinking, I need to put that on to boost my strength, hoping it's enough to reawaken the predator skill. He had no other choice. This wasn't the time to hesitate. Please just activate, he pleaded, grabbing the sage's ring. As he slipped the ring onto his finger, he prayed for it to work. Whoosh! A surge of energy erupted from within the ring, knocking the knights off balance and causing them to collapse from the sheer pressure. They fell like dominoes. A fiery power surged through him. The sage's ring was active. All his stats increased by 10, and his predator skill was triggered as well. The power was immense, erupting wildly like nothing could hold it back. Taehyun dodged while manipulating the blood splattered everywhere from the soldiers. The time to fully activate the predator skill was about 10 seconds. I can trust in the skills I've mastered up until now. I can totally beat them with the experience. I've gained from previous battles. I can survive this head-on fight. Taehyun chanted to himself, pouring every ounce of his combat power into the solo fight against them. After a chaotic explosion of smoke and fire, a sword wave rained down from above, nearly hitting him. Taehyun had dealt with the small fry. Now it was time to face the final boss. He stood there, stunned, as countless blades rained down like a storm. He scrambled to dodge blood streaming down his face, but the boss wouldn't let up. He used magic to drag Taehyun toward him, his killing intent burning as if he wanted to crush him right there. Boom! Through the billowing, thick, black smoke, Taehyun lay battered and bloody under the boss's heel. I want to ask you one last thing before I finish you. Where did you get that power? The boss asked, stomping on Taehyun's head, making him scream in pain. Because Taehyun had resisted a portion of the boss's pressure with his own mysterious power, the crushing force on him lessened slightly. You really are different from other awakeners, aren't you? But do you really think you can stop? My pressure with that, I'll ask again. Where did that power of yours come from? He demanded repeatedly. A brain-splitting pain surged through Taehyun, causing him to drift in and out of consciousness. In his hazy state, the faces of those who had fallen for his sake flashed before his eyes. Everything I have, and still isn't enough to defeat him. What do I do? Who exactly was the true owner of the power that gave me the Predator King technique? Why, when I obtained this power, could I suddenly understand the language of monsters? Was this power I gained a coincidence, or was there some sort of setup that I still don't know about? Everything is still in the dark. As he was panicking, a deep, warm voice echoed in his ears. A blinding light appeared before Taehyun, along with the voice of a man saying, everything comes from your own will and perseverance. Those are what make you strong. You don't need to overthink or change a thing. You just need to hold on to the royal power I have bestowed upon you. As those words faded, Taehyun returned to the present. The arrogant boss, seeing that he wasn't answering, assumed he was scared and raised his hand to finish him off. But suddenly, an overwhelmingly powerful energy exploded from Taehyun's body, a power that couldn't be described in words, leaving the boss wide-eyed. The magical energy inside Taehyun surged higher and higher. The furious boss charged in, but unfortunately for him, Taehyun was back and stronger than ever. He blocked with one hand and channeled his energy to fling the boss 10 meters away. The boss couldn't believe a human like Taehyun could be this powerful. He started screaming his head off, but Taehyun didn't care to waste words. With a slight effortless twist of his hand, that infinite wave of power obliterated the boss into dust. This power of Taehyun's wasn't just basic, it was the power of a king. The battle ended along with his new skill. Outside the dungeon, the tension was high. A crowd of reporters and journalists were gathered at the dungeon entrance, buzzing with panic about the terrifying energy levels. Damn it! A D-rank dungeon and suddenly an S-rank magical source appears. If this keeps up, everyone will die. I guess I have to go in there and see for myself. Sungjin thought, breaking into a sweat. Just then the dungeon opened. Taehyun, covered in blood, stepped out like a god before their horrified eyes. Almost didn't make it back. He smirked. Thanks to Taehyun's efforts, the dungeon crisis was resolved and all the students were safely evacuated. The results of the second entrance exam would be decided based on scores before the evacuation. The victims' bodies were found and returned to their families. The higher-ups also decided not to reveal the identity of the person who cleared. The double dungeon, fearing Taehyun would become a target for the media and other hunters. Sungjin and Taehyuk understood that the chairman did this out of good intentions. What do you two think? What rank has Taehyun reached? The chairman asked with a light smile. Sungjin felt that if he could clear an S-rank dungeon on his own, his skill and strength must be at least that of an S-rank player, but Taehyuk felt Taehyun's true rank was much lower. It was difficult to gauge his power. So that means there's a high chance he could reach the power level of a national rank hero, the chairman noted. Taehyun was currently having a very strange dream. He saw himself lost in a place swarming with monsters, a dark and gloomy abyss. In the distance was the shadow of a king, reaching out to eradicate the monsters, turning the world beautiful again. After leaving him with the words, "I will wait at the very bottom of the abyss," he slowly vanished into the light, leaving Taehyun completely confused. He jolted awake, drenched in sweat, his breath coming in fast, heavy gasps. Was it a dream? No. It felt more real than any dream I've ever had. What on earth did he mean, the predator that even S-rank monsters fear, and being able to understand what the monsters are saying? Too many questions popping into my head. I guess the only way is to become stronger and descend into that abyss, right? Taehyun told himself. He had reached B rank now, and with these stats he would soon be able to compare with S-rank players. That monarch's pressure must be the high-level skill that suppressed me back then. At this rate of growth, I'll reach the level of a national rank hero soon. Taehyun was just feeling confident when the sound of a commotion erupted outside the door. He recognized that tone immediately. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The door swung open, and who else could it be but Ayong? She wasted no time hauling him into her car and driving off. She claimed she just wanted to check on him, but her real intent was to grill him about the awakening exam. The third round, it's a survival test just like the first. But unlike the first, this one is broadcast to a live audience. Your skills are going to be on full display for everyone to see. Even the guilds will be watching. Who would have thought a low-ranking awakened could take down an S-rank? So I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse: money, fame, prestige. I'll give you everything you've ever wanted. Join the Awakening Association. Ayong reached out to him, her eyes burning with hope. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut, but it was snapped instantly by two words from Taehyun. Not interested. Ayong looked bewildered as Taehyun got out of the car and started walking away, ignoring all her desperate promises to give him whatever he wanted. Don't get the wrong idea, it's nothing personal. Whether it's the association or some other group, is there really a difference? I just don't like it. So no. There. Done. I'm leaving. Taehyun smirked and turned to walk away. But he hadn't gone far before Ayong lunged from behind and covered his mouth. Her eyes glared with murderous intent. Who the hell are you, really a rookie awakened, refusing the association? You really have no other reason. I honestly can't believe it. But I'll let it slide. Actually, I'm quite impressed. She was teasing him, but the lethal aura radiating off her suddenly vanished the moment he mentioned the girl. Arang, your little sister. I know all about it, even about the name that was stolen from you. Taehyun's threatening half-smile made Ayong tremble. An intense dark energy flared up around him, violent and overwhelming. Ayong's real name was Lim Arang, the daughter of the Rutsung Corporation chairman, raised to be the family heir until that other daughter was born and the name Lim Arang was snatched away. Ever since Ayong had been an outsider,
She changed her name and became an awakened, a secret few knew. With her deepest secret exposed, she was livid. Hatred burning in her eyes, she gripped his throat, but Taehyun effortlessly countered with his own mysterious, overwhelming power. The pressure was suffocating. Ayong stumbled back, unable to handle it. Taehyun cornered her Kabadon style and leaned in close. "Don't cross the line, A-Rang." The third exam took place in a massive arena modeled after the Roman Colosseum. Unlike the previous tests, this was held in public, so a huge crowd had gathered from early on. Ayong watched from the crowd disguised as a civilian. Jizang's parents were worried for Taehyun, but Jizang himself, who was both Taehyun's cousin and his fan club president, was completely confident that Taehyun would wipe the floor with everyone in one shot. Reporter Kim was also there, determined to write a decent article this time. Her last interview was scrapped because they labeled Taehyun a low ranker. If she didn't get a story this time, she was done for. She was on the verge of tears when she suddenly noticed the atmosphere in the arena. It felt weird. From high-ranking awakened veterans to the most promising rookies in the competition, they were all staring at one person. Taehyun. Were they all aiming to take him down? Just how strong was her target anyway? She couldn't help but wonder. The exam officially began. Every single contestant had their eyes fixed on Taehyun with pure malice. Taehyun, meanwhile, remained calm, looking cooler than ever. The battle was intense, with flashy, powerful moves flying everywhere. Everyone targeted Taehyun, trying to eliminate him first. But to their surprise, Taehyun took them all on single-handedly. With a burst of ferocious energy, he sent them flying like ragdolls, leaving them scattered all over the ground. Suddenly, thick tree roots erupted from the earth, wrapping around his entire body. This technique came from that guy with the slanted eyes and green skin. He stood there cackling, trying to taunt him. "Oh, you want to play fine. I'll take care of all of you." Taehyun tore through the roots and kicked the guy flat on his face. He kept going, letting them charge at him one by one. He remained completely calm, fighting with the spirit of a true knight, wiping them out. His burning, killing intent was so intense it made the spectators in the stands feel nauseous. Ayong could only watch. Stunned, the guy was legitimately insane. After the dust finally settled from the chaos, Taehyun let out a sigh of relief. But he realized someone was still left standing. It was Lim Arang. When Taehyun teased her about their kiss from before she turned beet red with embarrassment, followed by a surge of pure rage. She pointed her scepter at him, furious, shouting that she wouldn't let that happen again. A moment later, the result was exactly as Taehyun predicted. She was back on the ground beneath his feet. The result was the same, but she was a formidable opponent, that's for sure. That was Lim Arang. The third round was over. A perfect victory. Of course, the win was his. The chairman personally called him to his office to award him and congratulate him on officially becoming an S-rank awakened. "I never thought the third round would end quite so easily," the chairman admitted. "It's no wonder you were able to conquer the double dungeon of apocalypse." He gave Taehyun his full respect. "So Taehyun, after this exam, do you have any plans to join the Korea Awakening Association? What do you think about joining our organization?" As those words left his mouth, Taehyun was stunned. So much had changed. Even though he'd achieved so much in this exam, he honestly didn't feel like he had the power to be a high-level player yet. But they were offering him a spot as an official member. Joining would certainly give him resources and support to grow, but it would also come with a lot of restrictions on his activities. In the end, Taehyun turned down the chairman's offer. The man slammed his hand on the desk in shock. He never expected to be rejected so bluntly. The reason was actually quite simple. Rather than joining a guild or an organization, even with backing from organizations, my actions would be heavily restricted. "I think it's better for me to operate as a lone wolf," Taehyun replied while sipping his tea. The chairman suddenly burst into laughter, seemingly impressed by his confidence. "Since you feel that way, I have a proposal. Instead of joining the association, how about you participate in the top Asian Awakened tournament as a contestant?" He explained that at the Asian-friendly tournament, Taehyun would once again break the virtual world. Each country has 5 representatives selected by associations or guilds. In Asia, competition is based on hunting demons and monsters. To be chosen as a national representative, a player must hunt a specific number of monsters and contribute to the country. You need what they call merit points. It sounds easy, but I've just become a player. If I want to catch up to the merit points of those who have been accumulating them for years, I have to hunt stronger demons or monsters. However, the dungeons announced in South Korea in the next month, even if I cleared them all, it still wouldn't be enough merit points. I can't level up quickly either. As expected, even if it's dangerous, the only way is to go there. Taehyun strode straight into the dungeon. In front of a castle, the chairman of the Taezon group was lashing out at his servants because his successor was in the hospital and the person who caused it was running around freely. Just then, guests from the Vicious Association came to see him. He was furious but had to receive them cursing under his breath. Suddenly, a trace of demonic energy filled the room. Sadao, the vice leader of the Vicious Association, walked in with a malicious glint in his eyes, telling him to calm down. Back to Taehyun. While stepping out of the dungeon, he saw someone waiting for him at the entrance. I will guide the player Taehyun to the Alchemist's A-rank player auction. I'm Park Ganwon. It's an honor to meet you. He was trembling like a broken record, adding that he was a fan of Taehyun. It left him speechless. This is Asia's largest auction house, X-Boy. It has the largest scale in Asia, along with the most valuable auction items, and it even supports on-site translation. East Point has many advantages, but the best part is obviously the security. When association members participate in the auction, it is our responsibility to escort them as the White Point changes frequently. Without permission, you can't get in. Perhaps that's why there hasn't been a security issue in decades. Ganwon rambled on to, Taehyun, as expected, this place is considered the most secure location. However, today, this place will suffer an attack from an S-rank demon, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, at the auction, the MC was introducing the Phoenix Potion. Taehyun was still waiting for the S-rank demon's attack to gain merit points. The problem was the lack of information. Before the regression, it was only known as a major disaster for X-Boy. The perpetrator was an S-rank demon, Narendra Nero, who suppressed it in the end. Taehyun mused, then called Ganwon over to ask who is in charge of overall security today. Before he could finish, Ryo Isaka, an S-rank player from Japan, noisily marched toward Taehyun. He was the one in charge of overall security here, but you have to be careful. He might kill his own teammates for his own benefit. Among players, he's known as the Devil, Ganwon whispered into Taehyun's ear. Isaka reached out to shake his hand, but as soon as Taehyun gripped his left hand, an electric shock raced through his body. Isaka laughed triumphantly, making Taehyun furious. Everyone nearby was also gasping for air under the electrical discharge. Damn it, if I fight here, innocent people will get hurt. Taehyun broke into a sweat. Isaka suddenly let go, hugged him, and whispered in his ear. You know, just because we are both S-rank doesn't mean we are on the same level. I don't know why you're here, but stop doing meaningless things. Get lost quietly. Having said that, Isaka turned away, leaving Taehyun fuming. Two groups of awakened unintentionally faced off at the gateway of the portal management office. The bald guy's group looked bloodthirsty, brandishing knives and swords, ready to deal with the opponents. On the other hand, in a cave, Narendra Nero, an S-rank awakened of unknown identity, was using his soul-summoning dark arts to control a ferocious beast. Corpses lay at his feet. A foul stench filled the atmosphere. Sir, the current situation is a bit complicated. Inside the auction house, an unexpected character has appeared. The newly famous Korean S-rank player Taehyun is present at the auction house. We didn't account for this. So now what is our next move? His henchman ran up panting to ask. Nero remained incredibly confident, feeling that the kid was nothing but a nuisance. If he met him, he would call him a landline phone. No one can escape the punishment of the gods, Nero threatened. At a skyscraper near the beach, a horrific explosion occurred, causing severe casualties. To everyone at the conference, Ganwon screamed in fear, saying the situation was now extremely complicated and they needed to move quickly away from the auction. That house to a safe place. Indeed, I didn't think the attack would happen this fast. Explosions were occurring everywhere in the auction house, but this seemed like just a terrorist attack. The S-rank demon, the main culprit and my target, still hasn't appeared. But right now, the most important thing is that I need to witness the violent explosions in front of me. He felt bewildered. The surroundings were filled with endless screams, creating a chaotic scene. Gunfire from the terrorists mixed with the dense smoke. They shouted, ordering everyone to stand still and put all their valuables on the ground immediately. Any bastard who resists will die. But before he could finish his sentence, his head was severed, soaked in blood from a slash coming from Taehyun. Park Ganwon, the situation here is quite dangerous. Report this to the Awakened Association and have them send help immediately. As for me, I will stay here and handle this personally.
he said arrogantly, the killing intent from the blood-slaying blade in his hand surging and billowing. A group of brutal awakeners used force to suppress everyone trying to loot the auction items. A fierce, bloody battle broke out once they had cleared the place. Their security team had successfully laid hands on the one-of-a-kind Blood Phoenix treasure. This was the very item Nero wanted from this auction house, and looking at its effects, it was truly terrifying. For high-level awakeners, whose strength is nearly impossible to increase, they only needed to use this. It was enough to boost them to a whole new level of power. Now all we have to do is pack it up and deliver it. That's all the leader thought to himself, satisfied, but man proposes, God disposes. A thunderous explosion suddenly erupted, blowing the whole gang dozens of meters away. Someone mysterious had appeared. They launched a surprise attack, and on top of that, they used stealth skills, catching them completely off guard. The whole group was just being decimated by that fierce, violent killing intent, falling like ripe fruit. The leader, desperate and cunning, used his light chains to restrain Taehyun, secretly celebrating, thinking he'd finally taken him out. "But you're so naive, kid," Taehyun said. With a flick of his wrist, he shattered the chains to pieces, his eyes filled with sinister energy as he let out a mocking laugh at them. Back at the control room near the teleportation gate, and of the auction house, everyone was being held captive by monsters, their hands and feet tightly bound. The owner, Nero, was extremely pleased as everything was going even more smoothly than he had expected. The summoning of that being will proceed without a hitch. Now, as long as we get the Blood Phoenix, it's all over. Before he could even finish, a henchman rushed in to report that Daiki's group had found the Blood Phoenix but was currently having some trouble. From the other end of the line, Taehyun's powerful voice boomed, introducing himself as the one who had taken the Blood Phoenix from Daiki's group. "If you want it back, come meet me right now. I'll be waiting here, you filthy S-rank scumbag." Nero, hearing this, was so furious he spat blood, his eyes brimming. With demonic intent, swearing he would deal with Taehyun. At the auction house, amidst the scattered corpses, Kim Taehyun gulped down the bottle of Blood Phoenix. Looking at the bottle in Kim Taehyun's hand, he felt a surge of energy. "All right, my physical stats have increased, and my magic has increased too." Seeing the final product glowing, he thought, the Blood Phoenix really is something else. Its effects are truly incomparable. Back in the dungeon after I put on the Ring of the Wise, my stats didn't increase this much. Kim Taehyun smiled with a look of pure satisfaction. Now that I've finished the whole bottle of Blood Phoenix, even that bastard isn't going to be able to take it from me. Footsteps approached. Ryohei, with an expressionless face, arrived with his subordinates to see the scene littered with corpses. One guy stepped forward to check. "Is there no one left alive?" Another guy, sweat dripping down his face, said, "There was a distress call to the security headquarters earlier. Why is everything like this now? The culprit behind this has already escaped." A sly laugh echoed. "What are you talking about? Are you paying any attention at all?" The subordinates gasped. "What was that, sir?" His face showed cunning and darkness combined with a wicked smile as he whispered, "The culprit who did all of this is standing right in front of us." His voice echoed through the dark basement. "I knew you were here. Show yourself, Kim Taehyun." A pair of legs with purple light appeared. That's right. Kim Taehyun appeared cloaked in purple light. "I clearly used my stealth skill. How did you manage to find me?" As the two stood facing each other, Ryohei spoke with an arrogant tone. "Don't beat around the bush. What is a newly promoted S-rank like you doing skulking around here? You're the one who caused all this, aren't you?" Taehyun replied with an indifferent attitude. "What are you talking about? You're the head of security for this Dawn auction house. How are you asking me that? Terrorists attacked this place and assaulted the attendees, killing them. Where were you during all that?" Ryohei laughed cunningly. "Of course I had my reasons. You don't need to understand." Taehyun's eyes narrowed as he looked at him. "I see. No wonder I thought it was quite strange that there were so many high-level guards here." Taehyun reached into his pocket to take something out. Every corner had someone standing guard. Even before the terrorists attacked, there were so many bombs detonating all over this auction room. My deduction is, of course, to plant that many bombs, someone had to be here. Just as he said that, when the terrorists attacked, the bombs went off. From Taehyun's pocket, slowly a glowing blade appeared. "That's a perfectly convenient coincidence. So you know how to do that kind of work too. Not bad for a veteran S rank. A spy helping them and you're the chief of security, no one would have ever guessed. Ryohei hung his head with a sinister laugh. He opened his mouth, his whole body radiating a golden light. You seem smart. But you also have your stupid moments. Didn't I tell you earlier to stay quiet and not bother me? Do you not remember? With that, he vanished, leaving only streaks of golden light. Kim Tae-hyun clutched his blade, face set in defense. He appeared suddenly with his sword in hand, but Tae-hyun had anticipated it and blocked his attack. Give me the item you took right now. His face turned vicious. Tae-hyun smirked. Nice block. If you're so good, come and take it back yourself. The two clashed fiercely, sparks of golden light blinding the onlookers. After that, only two shadows could be seen, along with flashes of intense red sparks as small stones fell, and the box was split in two. The subordinates shouted, "It's not safe! Let's retreat!" Hurry up! 2 S ranks are clashing. We can't interfere in this. Plus, everyone knows the infamous reputation of Mr. Ryohei. If we keep standing here, if we're not careful, we'll lose our lives for nothing. He's even killed his own comrades who went through thick and thin with him. Tae-hyun used his skills to attack, feeling a bit suspicious inside. This guy's fighting style is a bit different from what I'm used to. His attacks and counterattacks seem quite unique. I rely on my instincts and the situation to strike, whereas he relies on deduction and sound to move and adapt. He's no pushover. He's already figured out my movements and is predicting my attacks. A flash of golden light zipped past. Tae-hyun, caught off guard, was suddenly hit by Ryohei, who launched a blow that sent Tae-hyun flying. He was injured in the arm and spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought, even though we're both S ranks with similar movement skills, and there is a big difference in our levels of real combat experience, but no matter what. Tae-hyun suddenly leaped above the subordinates. The subordinates gasped, "Ah, above us!" Tae-hyun's hand reached out like a hellish demon. No need to use Predator just yet. The subordinates were sucked upward amid their miserable screams. His hand, like a demon's, controlled them and killed them with horrific sounds. With unexpected power, Tae-hyun asked, "Demon Sword Isaka Ryohei, where is he?" A sinister laugh echoed again. "You've got decent combat skills, kid. You might be good at hiding, but in a place filled with so many obstacles, I can track you by sound. I've got you pinned down now, Ryohei. You're up on the ceiling, aren't you? Now that you've revealed yourself, let me return the favor for what you did earlier. Eat this demon sword heart piercer." He swung down from above, aiming straight for the head. Ryohei, his eyes glowing bright red, barely managed to defend with his sword in hand. Tae-hyun, meanwhile, watched the two masked men standing guard below. The guards panicked and bolted the moment they saw Tae-hyun punch right through the floor above them. Debris flew everywhere as the shockwave ripped through the basement levels. Ryohei stomped down onto his chest, pointing his blade at Tae-hyun's heart. Suddenly, Hei panicked. "What, no way, how are you blocking my demon sword?" Tae-hyun smirked and chains of light manifested in his hands. He used them to lock Hei's blade in place. Tae-hyun sneered, "Even if you're an S rank, there's still a gap between our skill levels, you idiot." Ryohei stared in absolute disbelief. That bastard from earlier. Down there after he finished off the other thugs outside. He didn't reveal himself to escape. He did it on purpose to bait me into attacking all while he was setting up this light chain skill. Once, I attacked him. He locked me down so I couldn't get out. Tae-hyun wound up his fist, the light chains glowing brightly around it. Now where do you think you're going? The chains of light lashed out directly at Ryohei. "You bastard! How could you do this to me?" He screamed in disbelief as the chained fist flew forward, slamming right into Ryohei's face. His face contorted from the impact as blood sprayed from his mouth. The ceiling had been punched through, leaving a massive dark hole that looked truly terrifying. The auction house was in ruins. Isaka Ryohei and his subordinates were all bound by the chains of light, groveling in the dirt before Kim Tae-hyun. His subordinates were pinned by the glowing chains, their strength completely drained. Frustrated and desperate, they thrashed against the bindings, but it was hopeless. Isaka Ryohei knelt there, trapped in the glowing chains. He refused to submit, his face twisted in rage and spite. Ryohei hissed through gritted teeth, full of hatred, staring at Kim Tae-hyun, who was grinning triumphantly. Ryohei, still on his knees, roared in fury, "You bastard, Kim Tae-hyun!" Tae-hyun just stood there, looking straight at him with a look of contempt.
I never thought an S-rank player like you with your standing in Japan would become an accomplice to mere thieves. Ryohei, insulted, couldn't take it. His face twisted into a vicious scowl as he forced himself up and bellowed, "You piece of trash! It's all because of you that my plan failed!" A foot slammed straight into Ryohei's face. The kick forced his mouth wide open in agony. After that powerful blow, Ryohei was sent flying back, screaming in pain. "Kim," Taehyun's voice cut through, "you talk way too much. If you failed, just accept it." Kim Taehyun looked on stunned as Hei's loyal subordinates worriedly watched their leader Isaka Ryohei fly through the air. They stared in panic and horror toward where he landed. They screamed out in desperation, "Master Isaka Ryohei, are you okay?" Taehyun narrowed his eyes at them and demanded, "If you want to live, tell me where that bastard Narendra Niru is hiding." Isaka Ryohei lay crumpled in the rubble, eyes shut tight as Kim Taehyun's voice echoed in his ear. "If you talk, your sentence might be lighter. If not, well, it won't matter anyway. The guilds have already been alerted. They'll be at this auction house soon. And of course, once the major hunter guilds arrive, you and that bastard, Narendra Niru, will both be dead." Lying in the wreckage, Isaka Ryohei sneered mockingly. "You think they're coming to help? You're too naive, rookie." Kim Taehyun's eyes went wide with shock as he stared at Isaka Ryohei. "What did you say?" Hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway and the door to the office was thrown open. The staff stopped what they were doing and looked toward the door in shock. A stout man with round glasses and long graying hair rushed into the office. The electronic screens were flickering and sweat beaded on his forehead as he shouted in a voice broken by exhaustion from running. "The support teams. Why haven't we seen any support teams arrive at the Dawn auction house yet?" This man was the chairman of the 4th Guild. "S-rank and S-rank. Look at the two men in front of you, one young, one old." He analyzed the situation. "Do you realize there are many rare, high-value items being auctioned here? VIP clients from Korea and all over the world are attending. If the hunter guilds don't arrive to support us quickly, the auction house won't be able to hold out against these thieves." The older man, who had an eye patch over one eye and a neatly groomed beard, remained calm and reassuring. "Just take it easy. We know all of that. When the terrorist attack began, the news spread to all the guilds. They have already prepared reinforcement forces. The lead of the support guilds is the hunter Park Sung-jin, accompanied by other powerful S-rank hunters." In his mind, he visualized the relief force led by the mighty Park Sung-jin. Sang-X looked flustered, a bead of sweat rolling down his forehead. "Is that so? Then why haven't they set out to reinforce the auction house yet? If there's a problem, contact us, and we will do everything we can to assist them." "That's not the problem. We don't know about the others, but the most critical issue hasn't been resolved yet. And that is, there's no way to get to the auction house." He slammed his hand hard onto the table, his eyes filled with anger. Sang-X grew even more panicked, sweat streaming down his face. "What did you say?" The man with his long hair tied back replied, "Those bastards, they prepared for this contingency. The moment they attacked the auction house, they immediately advanced to the management room for the warp gates. Now they've seized control of all the gates. As a result, every single one of them has been locked down." This time Sang-X couldn't believe it. "The gates? They've been locked?" "That's right, but you don't need to be too worried," he replied in a calm tone. "Fortunately, there are still 2 S-rank hunters at the auction house. Isaka Ryohei and Kim Taehyun." Isaka Ryohei's face appeared in his mind, looking sinister with his sword radiating a blinding light. "The newly promoted S-rank player, Kim Taehyun, but he's already got immense strength. As for the enemy, there's only one leader, Narendra Niru, who is also S-rank." Kim Taehyun appeared, his amber eyes glowing, wearing a smirk. "Kim Taehyun is already highly skilled, while the robbers only have one boss, Narendra Niru, who is also S-rank." Kim Taehyun appeared with amber-colored eyes and a smirk. With a sinister smirk and surrounded by a red aura, he was incredibly confident, certain that all that remained for us was to wait for the other side. "They're building a new portal to connect to the auction house, but I think by the time they do, the 2 S-rank players there will be able to hold the line and buy some time. The task at hand is just waiting for the technical team to fix the portal."
But don't underestimate those two players' opponent, that bastard Narendra Nehru. He's no pushover, along with the sound of a voice. A pair of black high heels stepped slowly into the room. Everyone panicked, looking toward the person who had just appeared at the door. Yui-san, why are you here? The girl with a chic short haircut and a cold, stoic face dressed in a black suit appeared before them. Cut to the Dawn auction house where Isaka Ryohei and his subordinates are tightly bound by chains of light. Isaka Ryohei is kneeling before Kim Tae-hyun, his face twisted into a mocking, insolent smirk. There's something you haven't considered. Narendra Nehru isn't simple. With his devil contract ability, you're going to die fast. Kim Tae-hyun, puzzled, asked back, devil contract. Isaka Ryohei, still wearing that arrogant, mocking expression, replied, exactly. That guy can connect to the demon realm and summon demonic beasts here. Depending on the amount of items, as sacrificed, he can summon demons of various power levels. So you think you can beat him when he has such a high-level support ability? Isaka Ryohei pictured terrifying and powerful demonic beasts in his mind. Kim Tae-hyun, slightly surprised and incredulous, asked, you mean he sacrifices items to the demon realm? Isaka Ryohei let out a sinister, dark laugh. That's right. Of course, what the demon realm desires most is souls, and the sacrifice you're wondering about is human beings. Cut to the IUI guild office. Yui was the one who said that. Everyone froze, unable to believe what they had just heard. Even Yui Dandin. What did you say? The other two asked urgently. The number of hostages and low-rank players at the auction house is huge. These are the very souls he can sacrifice to the demon realm to summon a high-level devil. Furthermore, he is an S-rank player himself, and he has many high-level mercenary awakened subordinates. Soul Sang X, no longer able to keep his cool, shouted in panic, this is bad. This time he's going to capture all the hostages there and sacrifice them all. We need to act fast. This is something we never anticipated. Yui's jade-green eyes became even gloomier. She said, that's right. It seems like a catastrophic disaster is about to happen at the Dawn auction house. Cut to the auction house. Taehyun grabbed Isaka Ryohei off the ground, raising his fist high. Taehyun's face showed pure rage and fury. You bastard! How could you do something like this, treating human beings as mere sacrifices? Isaka Ryohei laughed even harder, his smile turning cruel. Even if you've beaten me, Kim Tae-hyun, you won't be able to stop Narendra Nehru's plan. Victory and defeat have already been decided. You should just surrender. If you untie me and kneel to beg for mercy, I might just take you on as my subordinate. Kim Tae-hyun's expression became even uglier. Isaka Ryohei laughed louder. Or else, if you choose to fight against Narendra Nehru, the only outcome for you is to have your soul annihilated and sacrificed to the demon realm. His laughter echoed. Kim Tae-hyun slammed him against the wall, raising his fist high. A deep red glow surrounded the Dawn auction house. The sea waves kept crashing against the shore, white with foam, the sight holding thousands of hostages kneeling below. Above them, terrifying demonic beasts were staring down at the hostages. High up, a figure was looking down at them. A subordinate reported to the man with bloodshot dark eyes and a long beard standing there. Sir Narendra Modi, it seems Isaka Ryohei has failed. The masked subordinate continued. We sent people to find him, but we haven't found a trace. Along with him, the Blood Phoenix has also gone missing. What shall we do now? Narendra replied nonchalantly. Leave it. It seems there is an S-rank player with some strength here, but that rat can't do anything to us. They're still waiting for reinforcements from the guilds, but the portals are closed. His hand reached out, black energy manifesting. The hostages, kneeling below, were controlled by the black aura and lifted into the air. The others saw this and screamed in despair. The girl's neck felt as if an invisible hand was squeezing it tight. Narendra Nehru manipulated the black energy to torment the hostages. The hostages under his control could only scream in pain. As for that rat, if he doesn't appear, we'll just proceed with the plan, Narendra Nehru said while controlling the hostages. The black light surrounding him grew more intense. Now the demon realm will get some high-quality souls. Right now, Narendra Nehru looked like a true devil. His black eyes had a glint of red, his dark, sinister smile manifesting waves of dark energy. looking down at him from above with an increasingly fierce black aura. Huh, the power is out. The hostages in the darkness were even more terrified and uneasy. The guards, wearing devil masks, became alert. What the hell? Why is the power out now? Didn't we handle the bombs to destroy the power plant? How can we see anything in this pitch-black darkness? How are we supposed to operate the machinery? Narendra Nehru's dark face and eerie black eyes appeared. Where did the sacrifices go? What? Something went wrong. Narendra Nehru was bewildered to see only the black energy left before him while the hostages had vanished. Suddenly, Kim Tae-hyun appeared behind him with chains of light in his hand, striking toward Narendra Nehru and catching him off guard. The fist with the chains headed straight for Narendra Nehru. Narendra Nehru, with eerie eyes, watched the chains approaching. Kim Tae-hyun's hand controlled the chains, attacking Narendra Nehru with full force. Narendra Nehru was no amateur. He dodged Kim Tae-hyun's attacks. Kim Tae-hyun pressed closer, attacking aggressively with his fists, and the chains preparing to bind Narendra Nehru. He stepped back to dodge Kim Tae-hyun's strikes. Narendra Nehru growled in anger, his face turning more savage as he was attacked like that. Kim Tae-hyun smiled with satisfaction, seeing Narendra Nehru's expression. Kim Tae-hyun's whole body radiated. Even more light. Got you now! Suddenly, a sound came from behind Narendra Nehru. Something was growing out from behind him, a tentacle. It had 3 yellow eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth could even spit fire, a searing orange flame, looking truly fierce. Seeing that scene, Kim Tae-hyun's eyes widened, his pupils constricting. No! Unable to understand what was happening, filled with shock and disbelief. It wasn't just one, many tentacles like that were growing out from behind Narendra Nehru. The sharp eyes and mouths full of fangs were opening wide to create giant fireballs, destroying the chains of light. Surrounded by Narendra Nehru's forces, a massive explosion erupted. Thick black smoke and flames surged upward as rubble and debris flew everywhere. Kim Tae-hyun dodged the blast, dropping to one knee as he stared into the heart of the inferno. Through the blazing flames, a dark, obscured figure emerged, its tentacles writhing.
Behind me there's another monster. How is he this strong?
He stood perfectly still within the raging fire, completely unharmed, as if he and the flames were one. Are you the S-rank awakener, Kim Tae-hyun? Did you come here?
To save us!
The voices from behind made Kim Tae-hyun jerk his head around. The hostages captured by Narendra Nehru were right there staring at him, like a savior. Sensing their chance, they lunged toward him frantically. Untie us! Hurry before those thugs come back. If you save us, we'll make sure you get paid. Before they could finish, Kim Tae-hyun flicked his hand and a glowing chain of light lifted them into the air. Too much noise. You're breaking my focus. Suddenly airborne, they screamed in terror. Kim Tae-hyun sensed something moving toward him and shot a sharp glance upward. Monstrous creatures with razor-sharp claws and blood-red eyes were plummeting from above straight at him. As the horrifying beasts hit the ground where he had just been standing, a blinding flash of light soared upward, sending debris flying in all directions. The creatures blinked confused, staring into the swirling dust, their glowing red eyes searching for where Kim Tae-hyun had hidden. Before they could catch a glimpse of him, streaks of light flashed across their vision, interlocking, overlapping beams of light from the sharp blade in his hand. Kim Tae-hyun surged into the air, his blade glinting as his powerful light chains lashed out. Below him, the monsters were sliced into shredded pieces. Those sinewy, muscular hands appeared in the air once more. Kim Tae-hyun, looking like a demonic creature with a terrifying skull-like visage, stared down at the shredded remains of the monsters. He glared at another beast on the floor above his eyes, turning a deep, menacing red as he bared his fangs. The creatures growled, their rage mounting. A hulking, furry beast with 2 sets of glowing eyes let out a shriek, a sound from the depths of hell that grew louder and more ominous by the second. Suddenly, the pieces of the monsters Kim Tae-hyun had just sliced apart began to reassemble, more aggressive than before, lunging at him again. Caught off guard by this twist, Kim Tae-hyun's eyes widened. What? Boom! Another massive explosion rocked the area, swallowing him in a cloud of dense black smoke. Both Narendra Nehru, watching from above, and the monsters down below stared at the thick, pitch-black smoke cloud. From high above, Narendra Nehru smirked. Well then, don't be so naive to think you've defeated me. I'm sure you've heard of my demonic pact skill, haven't you? This skill, summons entities based on a sacrifice. Of course I don't waste my energy summoning weak demons. Narendra Naru gloated, convinced his demonic pact was the ultimate unbeatable skill. He was certain no one could stand against it. A smug, satisfied grin spread across his face. Those monsters are all S-rank equivalent, and with my power amplifying them, they are enhanced even further. They lunged at Kim Tae-hyun with newfound ferocity. As I channel my mana into them, they evolve into a power far beyond their original form. The monsters went berserk, raining attacks down on Kim Tae-hyun. He was visibly struggling to defend himself against them. Narendra Naru kept pouring more power into the beasts, pushing them to strike faster and harder. Kim Tae-hyun couldn't hold them back any longer. He took a brutal hit, slamming into the tile floor and cracking it deep. I'll give you credit for taking down that bastard Ryohei. Narendra Naru sneered, watching Kim Tae-hyun collapse, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. But against me, you're just another failure. Narendra Naru wore a look of pure triumph, believing he had crushed the S-rank awakener. Another deafening explosion rang out, black smoke and rock fragments flying everywhere. The hostages watched the blast, seeing the monsters charge directly into the rising cloud of smoke. It's no use. He's been taken down. The hostages cried out in a panic, believing Kim Tae-hyun had been defeated. One of them shouted out, bitter and resentful. I told him to save us first, but he wouldn't listen. Now look at the result. If he'd just saved us, we could have at least helped fight those monsters. You're wrong, a voice interrupted. A middle-aged man, also tied up, spoke, silencing the group. Everyone looked toward him in surprise. He pointed at the scene. Look closely. Because of him, the monsters aren't attacking us anymore. He's drawn all of their focus onto himself. Suddenly, everyone realized it. All the monsters and the masked henchmen had stopped caring about the hostages and were completely obsessed with taking down Kim Tae-hyun. He's at a disadvantage, yet he hasn't run away. He's doing this to buy time for the other guilds to come and rescue us. Kim Tae-hyun, his blade in hand, summoned every ounce of his remaining strength and fought back against the swarm of monsters. The hostages, after hearing the man's analysis, stared at him in utter disbelief at what he was doing. The middle-aged man continued with a determined voice. All the hostages that old man captured for his ritual. The boy has already set them free. They remembered the sight of the hostages who had been suspended by chains, ready for the sacrifice. The man reminisced about the moment. He couldn't hold back anymore, his entire body trembling as hot tears streamed down his face. He choked out, so. His initial plan was to deliberately draw the monster's attention away from the hostages who were being held for the ritual just to ensure our safety. The image of Kim Tae-hyun, now covered in wounds and soaked in his own blood, yet still gripping his blade to fight, made the tied-up hostages feel deeply ashamed. With selfish thoughts only for himself, he wailed, I didn't understand it before. Hang in there, Kim Tae-hyun. We believe you can win. To give Kim Tae-hyun more strength, they could only scream their support for him. Suddenly, light chains reappeared, powerful and surging. They were wrapping tightly around the monsters' necks. As the monsters struggled to break free, Kim Tae-hyun launched his counterattack, flying up and using the chains to bind them. He finished them off with a powerful strike, his eyes wide as he shouted, Gotcha! Hey, stop screaming like that! The monsters turned toward them. Now the hostages realized something was wrong, thinking, Did we just do something stupid? One muttered, Narendra. Niru stood there, calmly watching the terrifying tentacle that spewed fire. Surveying the battle, he wondered, so a bunch of giant monsters are ready to advance toward Kim Tae-hyun, who was already covered in wounds and trampling over the monsters he had just fought. Still, he pressed on, refusing to back down. He roared at them. You damn monsters! No matter how strong you think you are, I'm going to beat you all. Come and get me. The bound hostages witnessed the scene and could only watch in panicked concern, shouting, Kim Tae-hyun, be careful! Narendra Niru laughed loudly, his voice filled with evil satisfaction, mocking them. What a heroic display, truly! Kim Tae-hyun's face was soaked in blood, but his gaze remained resolute as he yelled, Hang in there, Park 1. This battle will be over soon, you can do it. Narendra Naru's dark eyes suddenly froze at what Kim Tae-hyun had just said. He looked toward the door where a silhouette had just appeared. Who's there? He sneered, stunned to see someone standing there. Since when did that bastard show up? Not wanting to keep Kim Tae-hyun waiting, Park 1 showcased his skills. Blinding rays of light burst from his palms as he focused all his energy into his ultimate move, shouting to Kim Tae-hyun, Sorry for the wait, I'll handle it right now. The scene shifts to Isaka Ryohei tied up in light chains lying on a pile of rubble covered in injuries, his mouth agape. Park Won was shocked to see Isaka Ryohei in such a miserable state. Not believing his eyes, he pointed at the fallen Ryohei and looked at Kim Tae-hyun, asking in confusion, "Kim Tae-hyun, what is this?" Kim Tae-hyun calmly replied, "They were Naru's men. They infiltrated the security team, so I took them down." As they hurried along, they discussed the current situation. "I can't believe things turned into this after I was gone for only a little while." "All right, this isn't the time to talk about that. We've already captured the gate control room. That bastard was using those hostages to summon monsters in there." Kim Tae-hyun analyzed the situation in detail for Park Won to understand. "Now we have to face both the monsters and the robbers. Dealing with the robbers is simple, but..." Kim Tae-hyun glanced at Park Won and said, "If we ignore the monsters, the hostages will be in danger." The hostages were tied up, kneeling, and monitored by Crimson Eyes. "If the worst happens, they'll all die." Hearing Kim Tae-hyun's analysis, Park Won panicked, not knowing what to do. He hurriedly asked, "Then what do we do now?" Kim Tae-hyun calmly replied, "It depends on your skill." Park Won was even more surprised when he spoke of his skill. He stammered, My gate control skill, is it? Me, I know how to control gates, but the hard part is that I need the exact coordinates of the gate to control them." "You mean connecting the gate to call other guilds, right?" Park Won asked skeptically. When Kim Tae-hyun wanted him to use his skill to control the gate, Kim Tae-hyun's expression turned serious. "Not exactly." Park Won was waiting for the result from Kim. "Tae-hyun, clear out the monsters. 1, 2, 3, many gates were controlled and opened, emitting blinding light. The gates became even brighter, and the monsters were sucked in by the gate's powerful force, unable to resist, only able to roar. Grr. The power of the gates increased, pulling in more and more monsters. Narendra Niru stood up high, looking down. Seeing the terrifying power of the gates, he couldn't believe it. "How? How can this exist?" He erupted in fiery rage, roaring, "What is happening?" The gate grew larger, forming a massive pitch-black hole. The terrifying power of the gate sucked many monsters inside. Park Ganung had just stepped out from the circular door, staring upward, stunned by his thoughts.
Earlier he said he'd open the gate to suck the monsters away. I was skeptical. Would it really work?
Afterward, Park Ganung broke into a cold sweat, eyes wide, thinking, "But now, I completely believe it." Park Ganung stood behind Kim Tae-hyun, who was standing tall in front of the gate he had opened. Park Ganung was still lost in thought. Now that the monsters have been sucked away, only that bastard Niru is left. Surely he can win and free everyone. Suddenly, Kim Tae-hyun turned his head slightly and said loudly, "Hey, Park Hyung-won." He shuddered at Kim Tae-hyun's words. "You've finished the mission of opening the gates here. It's quite dangerous for you here, so please take everyone and run away quickly." He hurriedly replied, "What?" His face was no longer calm. He raised his voice. "What do you mean by that? I can fight too." But Kim Tae-hyun remained very calm. He smiled and turned away, saying, "Your job here is done. That bastard is an S rank, so it's a bit too much for you, so please go quickly." After that, Kim Tae-hyun stomped his foot, shattering the floor. Suddenly, the atmosphere became more fiery with the appearance of the opponents. Kim Tae-hyun held 2 iron wires ready, looking toward them, and said to Park Hyung-won, "To focus on fighting and defeating him, I don't have time to protect you and everyone else." Narendra Niru stood before him, shouting, "Kim Tae-hyun!" He clasped his hands together and smiled at Naru. "All right, I heard you. Come on, then." Park Hyung-won, standing behind, couldn't help but worry, and he hurriedly evacuated everyone. "Everyone follow my lead, run this way." Kim Tae-hyun turned his head back, looking slightly anxious, saying, "Good, it seems everyone has started to evacuate." Then he looked up at him, saying, "Now it's just me and that bastard left." He lunged forward with all his might, darting past and stopping in front of Narendra Naru's face. Naru acted battle-hungry, lunging forward and saying, "So you're something, huh? You think because we're both S-rank our strength is the same?" Narendra. Naru reached out, and flames burned all around. And he shouted, "Let me see how you can withstand this." A burst of fire followed the direction of Narendra Naru's hand. He pointed directly at Kim Tae-hyun to guide the flame straight at him and said, "A brat like you has to die today. That much is certain." After that, the flames reached him, forcing him to cover his head with his hands. Then the fire exploded on the ground. He waved both hands at him, two demons with sharp teeth. The wicked monster sneered, "Even if you can save those hostages, can you pull all of my monsters into your portal?" Kim Tae-hyun collapsed, his strength failing. The old man's attacks had shredded his body and blood poured from his mouth. Even while coughing blood, he kept taunting, "None of this will help you defeat me." He raised his hands, summoning beasts wreathed in terrifying power, and declared as he looked down at the fallen hero, "This battle, it will end with my victory and mine alone." Kim Tae-hyun sat motionless amidst the rubble the monster had caused while the creature spewed insults. "You dared to test my patience!"
"And blaspheme the gods. So this is your end, Narendra." Naru's eyes glowed red as he snarled, "You will be a sacrifice for my monsters."
His eyes burned with malice as he stared at Kim Tae-hyun. Suddenly, Kim Tae-hyun slowly stood up, chuckled, and said, "You old bastard, you talk too much." "You talk too—" Narendra Naru glared. Kim Tae-hyun's face was smeared with blood, but he still smiled. "Did you really think I'd just die that easily? Think again." Upon hearing that, Narendra Naru's eyes widened. Kim Tae-hyun stretched out his hand and a mysterious red energy swirled around him, shooting straight toward the enemy. Everything near the old man began to disintegrate, each part slowly being sucked into Kim Tae-hyun's violent vortex. Narendra Naru stood there confused and roared. He looked at Kim Tae-hyun, who was holding out just one hand. The old man thought, "Is that boy only just now revealing the true extent of his power? Could it be, has he been hiding his real strength all this time?" Suddenly, Narendra Naru laughed, making Kim Tae-hyun, who was focusing his energy, look up, puzzled. "What is he doing?" Narendra Naru spread his arms wide and laughed maniacally. No power dared to approach him. Refusing to be defeated, he clasped his hands together, summoned his strength, and said, "Kim Tae-hyun, even if you were hiding your power, you'll still end up as my sacrifice. I'll make good use of your body, you hear?" He continued, "In this battle, you thought you were the only one hiding your strength, didn't you?" This sentence took Kim Tae-hyun by surprise. He suddenly glanced toward the corner, sweat pouring down his face as if he'd seen something terrifying. His hand was still outstretched, channeling power, but his head, turned to the right. He saw some of the hostages he had rescued. They were stunned to see him appear there, crying out, "Ah, why?" Then they screamed. The body of one of them began to burn away into ashes, and miserable screams filled the air. Kim Tae-hyun, still confused, looked on in shock, asking, "What is happening?" The blood of those people was now gathering on Narendra Naru's back. Forming the shape of a red wine glass, he began to chant, "Now all offerings shall be presented to the gods." The pool of blood grew, accompanied by his prayers. "O great deity, the atmosphere here is now consumed by the terrifying prayers of Narendra Naru. Assist your disciple and punish those who disregard your faith." Kim Tae-hyun looked up, seemingly bewildered and terrified. Narendra Naru's hands remained clasped in prayer. Gradually, a green energy appeared, covering and shielding the red energy Kim Tae-hyun had unleashed. A beast made of his power opened its sinister jaws to roar. This was the S-rank bone dragon. It happened in one of the highest buildings in the area, causing a massive plume of smoke to erupt from the building. The structure, beautifully built with glass walls, had its glass shattered to pieces after this collision. A corner of the room stood where the rescued hostages were. Before them were the bandits. Both Baek Gunung and the others were terrified, sweating, but he still tried to reassure them. "Those bastards, are there still bandits left? Are they waiting outside?" The bandits were armed, carrying weapons on their shoulders, wearing masks that showed only their eyes. The leader said, "These people. How did they escape from the boss's place? Something must have gone wrong over there." The others continued, "All right, whatever. They're just civilians, we can handle them easily." Just as they finished speaking, the bandits suddenly clutched their faces in agony. Even vomiting blood and crying out, Baek Gunung stood there with the others, bewildered, not understanding why they saw the bandits slowly turning into ashes. Those guys, before dying, managed to gasp, "What? Our bodies? Why are they?" Then they screamed loudly. Baek Gunung frowned, looking up confused and fearful. Suddenly, debris from the ceiling fell down where they were standing, causing them to panic. What is that? He looked out the glass window and saw stones falling in huge numbers. He shouted, "What the hell is going on here?" That massive tremor. Baek Gunung was likely screaming in despair, "What is happening?" Back to the two combatants, Kim Tae-hyun was losing ground as the S-rank bone dragon lunged at him, knocking him into freefall. He plummeted. Deeper and deeper the beast closing in. Kim Tae-hyun fell amidst falling rocks in excruciating pain. Narendra Naru stood above, unleashing a green flame that covered the entire floor and laughed loudly. He then shouted, "Finally! It is true when it comes to the power of a god. A dragon will always be something else, right?" Kim Tae-hyun was still falling, gritting his teeth, thinking, "No, it's not good." A chain suddenly coiled around his arm and he slammed it hard against the glass wall of the building, shattering it. The chain at that moment was pulled taut. A large hole was punched where the chain struck, creating an opening straight out into the deep, dark sky. He seemed to be getting pulled out through that hole. Kim Tae-hyun's feet desperately tried to grip the ground. His whole body flattened against the floor only a few inches away. His hand braced against the floor. He struggled to look up, breathing heavily, and said, "What in the world is the power of this monster?" Suddenly his eyes widened, his brow furrowing as if he realized something. Right in front of him was the monster carrying terrifying green power. It lunged straight at his face, but at that moment his mind skipped a beat. Narendra Naru, standing on the beast, charged at Kim Tae-hyun, successfully hitting him and sending him flying away. The wall of the building smashed inward, leaving a gaping hole. With a deafening roar, Kim Tae-hyun was sent flying, smashing through the walls as they crumbled. But the beast and Narendra Naru wouldn't let up, shouting that now he would die. "Get lost, you idiot!" Kim Tae-hyun's power surged back, making him go berserk. He lunged forward, shouting as he thrust his hand directly toward Narendra Naru. He unleashed a blast of power that seemed to overwhelm the beast, then spat out, "You think having that bone dragon makes you unbeatable?" The beast refused to back down. It quickly opened its maw, retaliating against Kim Tae-hyun with a massive, overwhelming force of energy that surged toward him again, leaving him momentarily frozen in place. Stunned by the sheer terror of it, the energy impact shattered, causing an explosion that shook both the earth and the vast ocean, turning everything nearby into swirling debris. Amidst the chaos, Narendra Naru and the beast flew forward, surrounded by a green aura. He stood atop the creature and spoke. Looking down at Kim Tae-hyun, whose hands and feet were shackled to the wall, he said, "I didn't expect you to survive an attack like that." The chains from earlier were now wrapped around his limbs, pinning him firmly to that wall. Despite the brutal fight, he wasn't dead, just incredibly exhausted, his head hanging down, gasping for breath while still suspended against the wall. He growled in frustration, harboring deep resentment toward him, his mind filled with thoughts of that bastard. At this moment, he felt like a tiny accessory attached to the side of a massive building. Before him, the S-rank bone dragon and Narendra Naru were observing him. His mind was still filled with bitter thoughts. "He's too strong, especially with those demons and the bone dragon he summoned. Even with my S-rank power, I'm at a disadvantage." Kim Tae-hyun opened one eye slightly, lifting his head to think, "It seems the gap between us is just too wide." The thoughts continued to race, but if he can sacrifice something to summon a bone dragon like that, there must be a drawback to his power. A black hole appeared clearly on his back. His hands were bulging with veins. Kim Tae-hyun stared intently at the pulsating veins on Narendra Naru, thinking, he has to have a limit otherwise. He would already be invincible within the S-rank. Kim Tae-hyun looked straight at Narendra Naru, thinking, I need to find a weakness in his power and then counterattack fast. Suddenly, the man laughed. Narendra Naru looked down and said, "You bastard, daring to look down on a god. I've already figured out your little tricks, get it?" This statement left Kim Tae-hyun completely bewildered. Then Narendra Naru smiled and continued, "You feel helpless right now because you can't beat me. So you're waiting for an opening to find my weakness and strike back, right?" Hearing this, Kim Tae-hyun frowned and broke into a sweat. Narendra Naru continued, "I get that. You're quick-witted, I'll give you that." But suddenly Narendra Naru let out a roar, his power creating tremors that rocked the entire sky around them. "Do you think your plans will ever become reality when I've already anticipated them?" That terrifying wave of power once again dominated the entire space.
Narendra Naru and that S-rank bone dragon flew forward, unleashing that power to destroy the building where Kim Tae-hyun was trapped. Kim Tae-hyun at that moment, Hyun, was absolutely horrified and shouted in fear. Everyone, including Park Gan-won, who was standing inside the building, heard it and looked out with worried expressions. Everyone inside frowned in extreme terror. It turned out that the S-rank bone dragon had discovered the location of the hostages and was charging straight at their hiding spot. Narendra. Naru continued with that beast, firing the same blast into the building, sending brick and stone flying everywhere. Meanwhile, at the headquarters, and spotlights were scanning in all four directions. The coordinators were in a panic, shouting at everyone to hurry up as the emergency gate connecting to the Dawn auction house was finally complete. All the operatives were lined up in formation before the large circular light gate. On the coordinator's signal, "Hurry, assemble, we need to get there. Priority mission is to rescue the hostages." The lead coordinator was flustered, sweating profusely, speaking into her headset while typing on the screen. She shouted, "Currently, only the South Korean branch can connect to the gate." The one leading this rescue mission was Captain Park Ji-sung, an experienced S-rank player, but even so, there were countless unpredictable dangers ahead. Park Sung-jin stood at the front, hands in his pockets, and said calmly, "It's fine." Then he added, "We already have some information on the kidnappers there. I need to head out quickly to rescue everyone." This statement left the female coordinator wide-eyed, shocked, and speechless. Park Sung-jin shouted orders to his entire team. "Everyone move toward the east now." He turned his head slightly, shouting sharply, "Those demonic bastards today, the people backing them will pay for what they've done." The hostages inside had all collapsed amidst the rubble. Park Gan-won was bleeding from his head, covered in other wounds. Suddenly, he stirred, his body aching. He tried to open his eyes to see what was happening. Before Park Gan-won was a massive explosion, the light blindingly bright. Kim Tae-hyun was standing there, having appeared out of nowhere, blocking the incoming power with both hands, causing Park Gan-won to jump up. He worried for Kim Tae-hyun's life and rushed forward, shouting, "Brother Kim Tae-hyun!" As for Kim Tae-hyun at this moment, he was holding back that power all by himself, shouting with all his might, and through sheer strength, he pushed the blast far away from Narendra Naru and the beast. But Narendra Naru wouldn't give up. He continued to laugh loudly. "This is your choice." The S-rank bone dragon then opened its maw, releasing another wave of energy. Then Narendra Naru smirked proudly, looking down and saying, "If you want to save them all, then sacrifice yourself under the hellfire of the bone dragon." Park Gan-won, sitting behind, watched on. He fought against that power all by himself, boasting loudly that it was thanks to his own strength that he pushed that force far away right in front of Narendra Nero and that monster. But Narendra Nero refused to give up, continuing to laugh wildly as he said, "This is your own choice." The S-rank bone dragon then opened its maw and unleashed a surge of power. Then Narendra Nero grinned, looking down proudly as he said, "If you want to save everyone, then sacrifice yourself under the hellfire of the bone dragon." Bak Gan-won, sitting behind, watched and thought. Once again, he had to face that overwhelming power all on his own. Park Gan-eun, seemingly unable to even stand, could only scream for Kim Tae-hyun to stop. "Run, get out of here. Everything you've done up to this point is already way beyond your limits. You don't have to keep pushing yourself like this. Even if you collapse, there's no way we'll be able to escape anyway, so you should just save yourself." Before he could finish, Kim Tae-hyun was struck by the enemy's power, letting out a painful scream, yet his mind was still racing.
I have to keep going.
Facing the ferocious monster radiating such immense power, he still didn't give up, his mind churning with thoughts. Taking on that bastard Naru who's controlling the bone dragon is impossible head-on. Like I thought, I have to wait for his weakness to show before I can turn the tables. High above Narendra, Naru laughed arrogantly. Kim Tae-hyun stood his ground, straining to hold back the power to protect everyone, thinking, even though I'm at a disadvantage, this power, and it keeps growing stronger. A powerful realization hit him. I can't give up. Everyone is still here and they need me. His face was set with determination as he fought against the massive wave of power, his eyes glowing red. I can resist. A little longer, but that's not the best way. Find a way fast. The only thought in his mind was how to save everyone. Suddenly, a trembling voice from beside him spoke up as if someone needed help. He froze the moment he heard it. Kim Tae-hyun turned his head in surprise and saw Park Gan-eun struggling to crawl toward him. Park Gan-eun looked up at him, confused.
Kim Tae-hyun looked back, wondering, what was that voice? Suddenly a notification appeared. Predator skill is being recalibrated. His hands suddenly flared with energy, leaving him bewildered. His hands grew even stronger as a system message flashed. Predator rank increased to rank A. The notifications continued. Because you haven't learned to control this new power, your body is in an overload state. A new wave of energy surged around him, making him grit his teeth in agony. What is this? He groaned. The rank immediately jumped again. Predator rank S. It kept upgrading. Predator rank SS. His eyes couldn't even stay open. Narendra Naru, standing on the monster, frowned and looked down in confusion. What on earth is happening? The red power radiating from Tae-hyun spread through the entire space, overpowering the bone dragon's aura. The rank increased again. Predator rank SSS. Now Kim Tae-hyun was engulfed in a blazing red energy with system messages. Him still flashing, Predator is at its maximum state. Your body is overloading. His body then burst with muscle, his physique hardening as he screamed in pain, yet his mind remained focused. So Predator has reached its highest level. A vision of a perfect body flashed in his mind. It reached the max level. Was this the power the Emperor temporarily granted me? His body suddenly smiled. Many thoughts raced through his mind, but right now his body could not handle this immense power. His arms felt like rocks slowly cracking into pieces. Am I falling apart? Is this how I die? His legs started to crack as well. Despite the pain, his thoughts persisted. I've tried my best this time. Kim Tae-hyun was still thinking, but finally, everything reached its limit. Still, he refused to go down like this. His body was literally crumbling, causing him to scream out in agony. His body had fractured almost entirely, leaving only his torso intact. The sheer agony caused him to collapse. Kim Tae-hyun fell face first onto the ground. Narendra Naru watched from above, thinking, has he finally given in? Kim Tae-hyun's wave of power was so intense that even Naru had to shield his eyes. He thought, but before he fell, what the hell was that terrifying power? Kim Tae-hyun lay motionless on the ground. Narendra Naru was convinced, whatever the case, this is my victory. Kim Tae-hyun's body was bleeding profusely. The man standing up there continued to analyze the situation. Maybe he pushed his body's potential to the absolute limit, but couldn't withstand the power, so his body exploded and he collapsed. Narendra Naru thought, he'll never be able to get up again? Narendra Naru, with a look of extreme annoyance, said, finally a blasphemer against the gods? Narendra Naru stood there and shouted, this is the result of opposing me. No matter how much you try, you're destined to die. Then Narendra Naru and his monster approached him. Suddenly the monster's claws appeared, but then the monster's limbs began to fall apart. The claws dropped to the ground. This left Narendra Naru completely bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Pieces of stone began falling off Narendra Naru, causing him to look down and see Kim Tae-hyun firmly standing up. Narendra Naru's eyes darted to the side, filled with anxiety. Another monster appeared, radiating a red aura several times more powerful than his bone dragon. The red monster didn't hold back, as it opened its maw, charging toward Narendra Naru with a ferocious aura. Narendra Naru, standing on his bone dragon, looked up worried and confused. What is this? A voice sounding strangely different came from Kim Tae-hyun. Heh. Gods, you say? Narendra Naru stood there utterly confused. Kim Tae-hyun stood with his head down, saying, what do gods mean to me? Narendra Naru looked toward him filled with fear and shock. Narendra Naru, at this moment, was sweating profusely. He stammered, You bastard! You're not Kim Tae-hyun! He screamed, who the hell are you? He looked at him now possessing that terrifying power and shouted, how could you? Possibly possess that ultimate power. This is impossible. To possess such ultimate power? This is simply impossible. Just watch. Kim Tae-hyun extended his power-filled hand and said, go down to hell and ask the god you worship about that. Before he could even finish his sentence, he unleashed a terrifying wave of power. You're going to die right now, he declared. Narendra Naru's face tightened, sweating profusely. Instantly, waves of Kim Tae-hyun's power slashed through him, tearing his body apart until every limb fell in a different direction. Kim Tae-hyun stood there reaching out toward where Narendra Nehru was collapsing onto the beast. A surge of power immediately flooded the space, sweeping away everything, both him and his beast. A notification appeared again. You have learned a new skill. Contract with the devil has been memorized. In a dark, silent void where shadows consumed everything, a beam of light suddenly shone down on Kim Tae-hyun like a halo. Kim Tae-hyun stood, motionless amidst the gloomy, terrifying landscape. He muttered in confusion, "This is the place where I was fighting that bastard Nero, right?" Suddenly, from out of nowhere, glowing red chains lunged at him. They felt as if they had just been heated to an extreme temperature. Those chains wrapped tightly around him, pinning Kim Tae-hyun down, leaving him no chance to resist. Kim Tae-hyun, in that situation, was genuinely bewildered. He didn't know what was happening. Before he could even process it, from somewhere, a giant boulder flew toward him, slamming into his body with terrifying force. He fell backward onto the ground, blood spitting from his mouth in absolute agony. Deep in his subconscious, he panicked, thinking, "My stone skin skill. It's been disabled. What the hell is happening to me?" From somewhere, hands were doing something. Before Tae-hyun there appeared a giant, mysterious, and imposing statue. On the statue's head were skulls arranged like a crown, surrounded by pulsing red lights emitting a type of energy. Ow, that felt threatening. Tae-hyun writhed at the feet of the statue, clearly feeling a horrific power invading his body, making him scream in despair. Tae-hyun muttered in a panic, "How could my skills be—" Amidst the delirium, a cold, cunning voice rang out. "Your stone skin skill, you say?" Upon hearing the voice of the mysterious figure, Kim Tae-hyun was stunned. The figure continued, "How can you call those skills your own, huh?" He replied, confused. "Huh, if I absorb you—" Immediately after, a giant mouth like a dragon's appeared from a glowing red circle. "Awakening your potential. That would be a delicious meal, wouldn't it?" The monster roared and lunged at Kim Tae-hyun with terrifying speed. He gritted his teeth, tense, his heart overflowing with fear. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared. Tae-hyun jolted awake, blankets scattered everywhere, his whole body drenched in sweat, breathing heavily. But when he saw his surroundings, he let out a sigh of relief and said, "Was it just a dream?" There were no wounds. The hand that was injured during the fight was perfectly fine now. What on earth? What is going on here? Suddenly, Park Seo-jin walked in holding a bag of snacks and asked, "Kim Tae-hyun, you're awake, huh?" Tae-hyun was surprised. He realized the person standing in front of him was the awakener Park Seo-jin. Seo-jin asked, "Do you want to eat something?" Seo-jin and Tae-hyun ate and talked. "This is the apartment the association and the auction house prepared for you. Basically, it's compensation as well as a reward for helping them in the recent terrorist incident. In that incident, thanks to you, we were able to rescue all the hostages they captured. As for that S-rank awakener, he has also faced his punishment. That was a major terrorist attack. Fortunately, thanks to you, many people survived. You passed out after that fight. Many friends and family came to visit you, but they've already left. Your family members and that kid, your younger sibling, cried their eyes out. The association director was also worried sick." Seo-jin recounted the expressions from that day. He couldn't help but laugh, saying, "Seeing his expressions back then, I couldn't help but find it funny. But after the battle, we had people check your health. Don't worry, you're fine. We didn't find any lasting damage on your body. Before this, I was worried that you might have been affected by the demonic energy when fighting that Nero, but everything is fine." Kim Tae-hyun stammered, sweating. "But I don't know. Why have I forgotten everything that happened at the auction house? Even the bloody battle with Nero. What happened back then? My fight." "There, what about it?" Park Seo-jin replied. "Indeed, this was beyond my expectations." Kim Tae-hyun also replied, "Yeah." Park Seo-jin asked further, "You mentioning it made me curious what really happened to you back then." Kim Tae-hyun recalled the scene that day. Park Gan-won was lying on the ground with a fearful look. In front of him was a tall, muscular man with red hair. Tae-hyun continued the story. "When I was losing to Nero, something happened." Seo-jin immediately wondered, "So who took him down at that moment?" Tae-hyun replied, "I can't explain it. I can't. When I blacked out, there was only the awakener Park Gan-won at the scene." Back then, Park Gan-won had said, "Tae-hyun, what's wrong? Say something." Then Gan-won's eyes widened in realization. It turned out it was Kim Tae-hyun.
but for some reason he had turned to attack Ganwan. With just one strike, he had made Park Ganwan cough up blood and collapse right there. At that moment, he even acted surprised, defeated by just one move. But that's enough. Kim Tae-hyun wore a cunning smile. Now time to return this body to him. Saying that, Kim Tae-hyun collapsed and his hair turned back to its usual brown color. While he was lying there, Seo-jin found him, ran over to help him, and called him to wake up. "Wake up, Tae-hyun, out there." Someone said, "Everyone move quickly. Search for the hostages here." Go, the hostages only seem a bit shaken up. It seems they weren't seriously injured, but the monsters Nero summoned are nowhere to be seen, and that bastard has also disappeared strangely. Park Seo-jin. Seeing that, he sighed. "Honestly, Kim Tae-hyun, what on earth happened to you?" Returning to the present Park, Seo-jin said, when the hostages there calmed down. "As I mentioned, we asked them about the situation there. They couldn't explain everything clearly, but they did say you took down Nero before passing out." Tae-hyun sighed and replied, "That makes sense. Since they aren't awakeners, there are many things they couldn't know." Park Seo-jin continued, "As for the player Park Gan-won, you can't remember anything either, just like me. It's almost as if some force wiped our memories clean. I suppose it might be an after effect of clashing with Naru's demonic energy, but anyway, everything turned out fine in the end, so congratulations and thank you so much. We're still investigating and analyzing the battlefield, so if we find anything else, I'll let you know later." After she left, Kim Tae-hyun thought to himself, "Could it be that Nero's demonic energy affected me and caused the memory loss? But that sounds a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? Though I do remember my arm shattering when I tried to use predation. I must have pushed predation way past its limit during that fight." Lost in thought, a prompt suddenly appeared. Contract of the Demon Lord B. Ability to summon demons by connecting to the demon realm. Mana 200/200, Kim Tae-hyun. He was stunned. What is this? Is this Nero's skill? Did I absorb it after defeating him with predation? It only required 200 mana to activate, but it was slightly different. Back then, Nero needed a sacrifice, but I only have 180 mana right now. Just as he was deep in thought, Park Seo-jin called out, "Hey, Kim Tae-hyun!" He turned around. "Seo-jin, you have a visitor." Tae-hyun was surprised. "Oh." Ian stepped through the door carrying a fruit basket. Seeing this, Park Seo-jin immediately said, "You have a guest, so I'll head out first." Kim Tae-hyun looked at her and complex emotions welled up inside him. "Ian," she spoke first, "I came to visit you." Lim Ah-e-ang S-rank awakened A-rank player. The city view outside bustling and familiar, yet suffocating with harsh sunlight pouring down. The snacks and drinks on the table were the same boring stuff. Kim Tae-hyun didn't really have an appetite. Suddenly, with great force, she slammed the fruit basket down, crushing the food and making an unpleasant noise. Kim Tae-hyun jumped, his face darkening at the sight. Lim Ah-e-ang, sitting opposite, seemed not to notice his reaction, her face cold. "I heard you got hurt fighting those bandits, but seeing you now, you look perfectly fine, don't you think?" Looking at the messy, annoying sight on the table, Kim Tae-hyun, despite his irritation, sat across from her and replied, "I was only slightly injured. Generally, my health is completely back to normal." Lim Ah-e-ang reached out and grabbed a bright red apple as if trying to vent her anger on it. She continued, "In that terrorist incident, I heard you saved many hostages and took down a pretty strong boss, right?" Kim Tae-hyun seemed hesitant. That was somewhat true. Her anger turned into raw strength as she squeezed the apple. Lim Ah-e-ang, sounding frustrated and tense, said, "I heard you even went up against 2 S-rank awakened beings there, right?" The sunlight hitting her face only added to the irritation in her eyes. The poor apple was gripped even tighter. Kim Tae-hyun, still not understanding what she meant, asked back, "Huh?" The apple was completely crushed. It was clear how annoyed Lim Ah-e-ang was. She raised her voice. "I know you're talented, but don't go thinking you're the best. I will train hard and catch up to your level. Pretty soon." Her grip was so strong that pieces of apple flew onto Kim Tae-hyun's face. He finally realized where her frustration was coming from, but he still didn't get why. She was so angry. Was this jealousy or worry? He asked. "Anyway, why did you even come here?" Lim Ah-e-ang turned away to avoid his gaze and gave a reason he found completely unbelievable. I came to visit you." Of course, Kim Tae-hyun didn't believe it. He felt exhausted having to deal with this girl.
Seriously, she's exhausting. Should I call security? At the same time, seeing his cold, indifferent attitude, Lim Ae-ang became even more furious. She gritted her teeth. Kim Tae-hyun. Who knows how worried I've been for this guy? I was so worried about whether he was seriously hurt or not. I heard the terror attack was large-scale with many awakened involved, so I came to check on him. But looking at him now, he's perfectly fine. She also sensed that he seemed much stronger and the aura radiating from him was far more powerful than before. I don't understand what changed for him during that incident. Seeing the anger on Lim Ae-ang's face becoming more and more obvious, Kim Tae-hyun remained clueless. Across from him, Lim Ae-ang recalled the incident during the previous exam, the time they accidentally kissed. And she blushed, but her worry didn't stop. If you think about it, compared to when we faced each other in the exam, he has improved so much. The gap between us is widening more and more every day. She couldn't help but ask, "Hey, Kim Tae-hyun, how were you able to?" Suddenly, footsteps approached, cutting off the conversation. They both stopped instinctively and looked toward the direction of the sound, slightly startled and uneasy. They turned toward the door. Who could be coming to this guy's house? The footsteps grew louder, their hearts skipping a beat. Worried about who it could be, Kim Tae-hyun reacted first. "Why is that person?" Lim Ae-ang realized who it was and blurted out, "Huh." The intruder wasn't anyone else, it was her sister, Ju Ah-yong. She was also startled, not expecting to meet her sister here. Surprised, "Why is my sister here with this guy Lim Ae-ang?" And didn't wait for her sister to react, stepping forward and asking repeatedly, "Why are you here? And how did you get into Kim's house?" As if catching on to the main point, she continued to interrogate her. "The password to his front door. How did you know it?" Ju Ah-yong regained her composure, but reminded Lim Ae-ang, "Don't call me sister, okay?" Ju Ah-yong casually explained, "As for that, this house is provided by the Awakened Association for him, and they gave me the password." Ju Ah-yong suddenly stopped, looking toward the other two who were still stunned, revealing a lapse in guard. "You idiots never let your guard down like that." She smiled dangerously, then swiftly moved in, suddenly pivoting behind Kim Tae-hyun and pinning him in a vulnerable hold. Lim Ae-ang didn't react in time. It all happened too fast. She only managed to blurt out, "Huh, what?" Seeing the scene, she panicked and rushed to save him. "What do you think you're doing, Ju Ah-yong?" In the dominant position, she smirked and replied, "What am I doing?" The smile on Ju Ah-yong's lips grew wider. "How interesting to see. Two S-ranks chatting happily in the same house. I wonder what your relationship is." Saying that, she silently touched Kim Tae-hyun's lips, provocatively. Kim Tae-hyun gradually reacted. What Lim Ae-ang was so angry she shouted, "What are you saying? That's impossible. That's a crime." But her face turned noticeably red. She panicked and rushed over, trying to intervene. "What are you doing?" Ju Ah-yong, who had the upper hand, smirked and replied, "What am I doing, you ask?" The smile on Ju Ah-yong's lips gradually deepened, looking with interest at her younger sister, who was so worried. Her curiosity piqued. She couldn't understand why, upon arriving here, she would see two S-rank individuals chatting happily in the same house. "I wonder what the relationship between you two really is," she said, then provocatively traced her finger over Kim Tae-hyun's lips. Kim Tae-hyun slowly started to react. "What did you say?" Lim Ma-yang grew flustered and angry, shouting, "What are you talking about? That's impossible! That would be a crime!" Her face turned visibly red. After being sold out, she regained her composure. "He's still a minor," she countered. Catching Ju Ah-yong off guard, Kim Tae-hyun yanked his hand away, breaking free from her grip. "And let's stop this," he said. Ju Ah-yong was startled by the force of his movement. Kim Tae-hyun continued, "Cut the act. We can do this right here." Then, looking at the player Ju Ah-yong, he frowned. Irritated by her sudden attempt to attack him, he asked, "What brought you here? If you're here to ask me to join your guild, I've already turned you down." "I already told you no." Ju Ah-yong clicked her tongue. "Your attitude is still as annoying as ever." Rubbing her sore wrist, she added, "Just like the first time we met, right? You're still just as rude. I'm only here to check on you, nothing more." Her voice softened. "I even brought you a gift." Kim Tae-hyun looked skeptical. A gift, Zhu Young continued. That's right. I heard from the association president that you're training to boost your strength for the Asian Awakened tournament, right? Not waiting for Kim Tae-hyun to reply, she continued, her tone becoming more confident. It's true that rescuing those people and taking down those two Awakened at the Dawn auction house was impressive, but look at the rankings.
You're still only in 30th place.
She stepped closer to Kim Tae-hyun.
If you want to climb into the top 5,
to become a representative in the competition, you'll obviously need to work much harder to rack up more points.
Because of that, Zhu Young placed a hand on Kim Tae-hyun's shoulder. I've brought you a gift.
She teased, building anticipation while he looked on with surprise. Her hand drifted down toward his injury.
the right to raid the fire god temple.
She explained, her tone sounding excited.
You know the one, right? The scene shifted to a gloomy landscape.
At the Dawn auction house ruins, a motorboat was approaching a distant island under the cover of darkness. The island was shrouded in thick fog, but even from a distance, you could see the scene, in total ruins and devastation. The night demon's voice rang out, "So, that's the Dawn auction house." A voice replied, "Yes." As they drew closer, the wreckage became clearer, debris-broken structures and choking clouds of dust and smoke. The night demon assessed the scene. His emotions were unreadable. Just by looking, you can see how much it's been torn apart after the Awakened attacked it, plus those extra explosions. Now you could say it's completely collapsed. He continued observing, then asked his subordinate, "So after that attack, do we know if that guy Naru is dead or alive?" The subordinate replied, "As for that, we still haven't been able to confirm anything about him." His lackeys hesitated, whispering among themselves, "This is a big deal, but should we report this to the boss?" The night demon replied, his voice somewhat, "Definitely not. We can handle this situation ourselves." He was confident. The goal of attacking the auction house was achieved. Whether that Naru guy is dead or gone, it doesn't matter. We only hired him to do the job anyway. He continued, but suddenly a voice blared through a loudspeaker in the dark night from a large patrol boat. It looked quite overwhelming. The captain spoke over the speaker, "Stop right there. You are all surrounded." The motorboat looked tiny compared to the massive ship. The captain on the boat continued through the speaker, "To the illegal intruders here. This is a restricted area for everyone. Only the Awakened patrol team is permitted. If you know what's good for you, drop your weapons and surrender now." But then a loud noise erupted. In a split second, the massive ship was swallowed by the deep sea, completely submerged. The Awakened patrol team didn't even have time to react before the ship sank to the bottom of the ocean. A sudden death, leaving no time to react. This will be a mysterious disappearance that causes quite a stir. The person behind the incident, the night demon, had protected his motorboat and his men. His voice rang out, dangerous, and filled with a deadly kind of curiosity. "After this, I've really taken an interest in that Awakened Kim Tae-hyun." As he spoke, he unleashed his awakening power, giving that patrol team no chance to survive. Back at the headquarters of the Night Guild, the room was filled with excited cheers. Kim Tae-hyun continued his path to the top 5. Standing beside him was Zhu Young, who loudly announced, "After this dungeon raid player, Kim Tae-hyun will be joining us." The more she spoke, the louder and prouder her voice became. As you all know, he played the biggest role in the Dawn auction house terrorist incident, rescuing the hostages. You could say he is currently the most promising young Awakened in Korea. The cheers grew more intense. They chanted his name in unison, "Kim Tae-hyun, Kim Tae-hyun." Zhu Young signaled for the excitement below to die down. However, she always kept her focus on the important stuff. "As he will be joining us for this dungeon raid, I have also considered how we will split the loot obtained for our guild and him, ensuring both sides are happy and in agreement." Kim Tae-hyun, standing nearby, sighed in relief. "That's exactly what I wanted to say. Of course, when it comes to splitting loot, who would want to get the short end of the stick?" Kim Tae-hyun thought to himself. "This Fire God Temple raid really is a good opportunity for me." The image of the Fire God Temple appeared true to its name, a dungeon with an entrance that looked like a raging fire. Kim Tae-hyun thought to himself, "This is the second dungeon I've entered since the competition." His train of thought continued. In the past, before the regression, the Night Guild did successfully raid this Fire God Temple, but they paid a heavy price. Almost all of the awakened who participated in that raid lost their lives. It's true that high risk comes with high rewards. If I can successfully clear the Fire God Temple, my contribution points for the guild will definitely skyrocket, he calculated quietly. However, he was still a bit worried. Last time, though, it's unclear if it was real or just a nightmare. His hand was almost shattered. Now, after being hospitalized, his strength and stamina still hadn't fully recovered. So clearing this dungeon would be much harder, thinking that he looked over at the person next to him. But if he raided it with player Zhu Ai-young and then looked down at the rest of the Night Guild members, he suddenly feeling confident that this raid on the Fire God's temple, drowned out by the sound of cheers, would definitely be a success. Kim Tae-hyun marched forward. The day to storm the Fire God's temple had arrived, met with immense enthusiasm. The fan club's over-the-top support, complete with garish, flowery banners that felt completely out of place for an upcoming battle, stood in stark contrast to the pride and steady confidence of the Nightwalker Guild. The Nightwalker Guild's assault. It was just two people raiding the place, Kim Tae-hyun and Zhu Ai-young. Kim Tae-hyun looked slightly helpless and taken aback, while Zhu Ai-young was incredibly hyped. The crowd outside cheered loudly, shouting encouragement. "We'll be waiting for you two. Good luck and stay safe." "Captain, the safety of the team leader is all on you," Kim Tae-hyun, confused, asked. "Wait, what? But Zhu Ai-young, on the other hand, was she being dense?" Kim Tae-hyun's tone was full of frustration. "What the hell? Why are there only two of us raiding this dungeon?" Zhu Ai-young, casual as ever, replied. "Just think of it as a date for the two of us." Her tone was playful, paired with a charming smile. Kim Tae-hyun couldn't help but curse under his breath. We're staring death in the face and she's still joking around. Without arguing for too long, Kim Tae-hyun and Zhu Ai-young stepped directly into the Fire God's temple. A breathtaking scene unfolded within the suffocating space of the dungeon, where streams of blue fire engulfed everything like a scorching inferno. Zhu Ai-young looked at the scene inside, smiling and letting out a curious, "Oh." Before them, the dungeon was submerged in an endless blue-lit expanse dotted with trees withered from a lack of water. She gasped, "This is terrifying." Looking at the shriveled bushes and the strange, pulsing blue veins of fire, she continued, "This dungeon is really different from the others. I never imagined it would be like this." Standing at the dungeon entrance earlier, Kim Tae-hyun had evaluated the situation. "The Apocalypse dungeon I encountered last time was completely different from this one." Zhu Ai-young agreed. The Apocalypse dungeon had appeared during the Awakened test. Zhu Ai-young sat down in front of the pit, leading deep inside her mind, suddenly going blank. It seemed she couldn't think of any way to descend into this dangerous chasm. She asked Kim Tae-hyun, "How are we supposed to get down there? There's a high chance there are many beasts down there." As her mind drifted, searching for a way down, a long tentacle lashed out, wrapping around her neck with lightning speed, leaving her only enough time to gasp. It was so fast. The tentacle dragged her whole body down, leaving Kim Tae-hyun above with no time to react. He stared, stunned, as he watched her get captured, only able to shout, "Hey, Zhu Ai-young!" Now Kim Tae-hyun finally snapped back to reality, blurting out in panic, "No way! How did this happen?" He drew his blade to use as an anchor, stabbed it into the cliff wall, and immediately leaped into the pit without a second thought, hoping to rescue her in time. As he dived down, he immediately saw that Zhu Ai-young had already turned the tables, defeating the beast, a giant squid, the owner of that unruly tentacle. She turned back, activating her awakened power, her body radiating a sparkling green light that stood out sharply against the blue fire-filled space of this Fire God's temple. After taking down the annoying monster that had dragged her down, Zhu Ai-young shouted to signal Kim Tae-hyun, "Just jump down, it's fine." Her tone was completely confident. Kim Tae-hyun couldn't believe his ears. "Just jump down?" He looked down at Zhu Ai-young as she fell, and below were monsters of all kinds, hideous creatures waiting to tear her apart and turn her into a tasty meal. Zhu Ai-young didn't flinch, instead continuing to steer herself using the force of the fall to strike the mobs blocking her way. She clearly didn't know her own strength. The power she unleashed was massive, overwhelming the gruesome monsters and defeating them quickly. Wherever she landed, the monsters bled. Kim Tae-hyun watched, his heart full of excitement and joy, but also fear.
He secretly thought she took down A-rank monsters with just one punch. He cautiously followed behind Ju Ai-young, still deep in thought. Last time I met her, she must have been hiding her true strength. He secretly held Ju Ai-young in high regard.
As expected of a guild master, even if she isn't the strongest S-rank, her true power is nothing to scoff at. He suddenly realized
that this might be the reason why she only needed the two of them to raid this dungeon. As he thought this, Kim Tae-hyun also activated his own awakened power, refusing to be outdone by the girl in front of him. Naturally. Since that was the case, he needed to try even harder. He couldn't afford to fall behind. Kim Tae-hyun quickly caught up with Ju Ai-young. The warm-up battle began. They defeated monster after monster fighting, all the way to the bottom of the deep pit, where the blue light radiated both seductive and dangerous. Ju Ai-young spoke up first, laughing with delight. Finally reached the bottom! As she spoke, she cracked her shoulders as if the bloody slaughter that had just occurred hadn't even been a warm-up for her. Kim Tae-hyun followed closely behind, stepping over the piles of monster carcasses. Ju Ai-young grumbled, didn't think the bottom. This place would be so deep. Kim Tae-hyun brushed off some blood that had splattered on his hand, looking a bit more ragged than Ju Ai-young, and replied vaguely, yeah. He thought to himself, the monsters here seem strong, but they don't look like anything she can't handle. But because of that, I'm curious. Back in my previous life with such immense power, why did her entire guild almost perish in this very dungeon? Just as Kim Tae-hyun was lost in thought, Ju Ai-young approached and handed him an item. Take this, Tae-hyun. She held out a black ring. The design was very simple, if not to say plain, with a dull black color. The only standout feature was the emblem of a shield. He realized it instantly. This was the ring of the Knight, a unique grade Knight's ring. The wearer's strength and durability would be greatly increased. He thought, it seems she prepared this for me when she learned my hand injury hadn't fully recovered. With this ring I can make up for a bit of my strength. Meanwhile, Ju Ai-young continued her chattering. I told you last time I had a gift for you. This is it. The dungeon raid was just a test for you. Kim Tae-hyun was flustered. Even though he knew she was a guildmaster, an item of unique grade like this being given to him, Ju Ai-young hadn't noticed his confusion and excitedly asked, what do you think? With this, you'll definitely consider joining our guild, right? Kim Tae-hyun, and now had a different view of her. He reminded himself that he really needed to reevaluate what kind of person she was. On the surface, however, he still acted annoyed, asking her, if you had such a good item, why didn't you give it to me sooner? Ju Ai-young hadn't expected him to react that way and was momentarily flustered. Well, about that, I also... Kim Tae-hyun cut her off. If you'd given it to me earlier taking down these monsters, it would have been simpler. Ju Ai-young knew she was in the wrong and hurriedly changed the subject. All right, I've given it to you now, so let's move on. Kim Tae-hyun wasn't someone who was ungrateful. Thanks a lot regardless, he said, but didn't forget to remind her. But these were just small fry monsters. This dungeon isn't that simple. Because of that, he warned her to be more careful. Ju Ai-young agreed. Kim Tae-hyun seemed to have discovered something and spoke up, voice filled with excitement. Looks like we're getting close to the heart of the dungeon. Kim Tae-hyun looked in the direction she pointed and saw an altar. It seemed to be the source of the blue flames they had seen from the dungeon entrance, and right in the center of that altar was an object. It looked like an egg, emitting the same blue light as the flames they had seen earlier. Heat and smoke were radiating from it, and there were mechanical traps set up around the outside. The protective barrier seemed incredibly solid. While Kim Tae-hyun was curious and excited, Ju Ai-young remained on high alert, observing the egg, trying to determine its rank. Meanwhile, Kim Tae-hyun stared intently at the egg, silently evaluating it. He couldn't tell what kind of magical beast it was. To him, it just looked like an egg. Forget it, he muttered, pulling out his knife intent on probing it. This was likely the prized possession of the dungeon boss. He turned to speak to Ju Ai-young. We need to observe before we act. But before he could finish his sentence, she was already gone. She had rushed ahead. A scream echoed through the enclosed chamber, amplified and chilling. Kim Tae-hyun froze at the sight of this reckless player. He could only manage to call out to her, screaming, "What are you doing?" Meanwhile, Ju Ai-young was already excitedly leaping toward the egg in the distance.
Driven by curiosity and a competitive streak, she lunged straight at the glowing blue egg. Kim Tae-hyun couldn't stop her and yelled out, "Wait! You're acting without even asking me, are you?" He hurriedly chased after her. Just as he was about to catch up, the floor crumbled under the force of her movement, and Kim Tae-hyun managed to shout, "Are you okay?" "Ju?" Ah-young turned back and glared at him with an intimidating expression, asking a confusing question. "Do you mean, am I doing all right? I doing?" But then she immediately replied with a mischievous grin. The egg had completely shattered. It was as if that massive impact hadn't even come from her. Behind her, the egg, in fact, had been smashed. The shards were scattering everywhere, and a faint blue fire flickered from within. She continued playfully assessing it. Judging by the hardness, its shell is on par with the defense of an F-rank monster. Amidst Kim Tae-hyun's shock, she continued, "But then again, it was a stationary object, so it was much easier to attack." She then smugly asked Kim Tae-hyun, "How about that?" Kim Tae-hyun was terrified. She just smashed it. How could it be that simple? A flash of blue light erupted from within the broken shards. Ah-young only had time to gasp before a massive explosion rocked the entire chamber. Ah-young was caught off guard and blurted out in confusion. "What is this?" Kim Tae-hyun could only manage to exclaim. "Oh no!" A voice suddenly boomed out. "I never thought humans would make it to my shrine." Both Kim Tae-hyun and Ju Young were stunned, warning each other to be careful. They looked toward the source of the voice, a blue phoenix. It continued, "I am delighted that you have come." Its eyes glowed a bright, eerie red against the deep blue background, striking fear into both of them. It continued, "To return the favor for such joy, I will let you both. I melt away in my blue flames. Melt away in my blue flames."